Do you identify as a woman?
No, but I think that's tangential.
What do you identify as?
Oh no.
That's tangential to this conversation.
No, it's actually very relevant to what I'm about to say.
No, I don't think my identity is
Well, what do you
relevant.
identify
What if I started bringing up the fact that you're British and you're here talking to a bunch of Americans in America?
I think wokeism has become one of the worst scourges in the world.
Oh my God, worst in the world!
Trans athletes in sports. Do you think it's a good idea?
Not necessarily.
No, don't get baited! No, how did he get baited by it?
So
How many genders are there?
I'm still talking about gender expression.
Can you tell me how many genders there are?
I'm talking about.
How many other?
I personally don't care. I don't know.
Do you know a number?
No, because for biological sex,
Do
maybe
you
we can
believe,
talk about
do
that
you
in
believe in
binary.
the concept of limitless self-identity?
No. So if
So
you
what's
would
the-
let me,
where's the limit?
If you would let me continue.
Where's the limit?
If you would let me continue.
God.
Thank you.
Let me give you an example.
Piers, I read your book. That's not the case.
Let me give
You
you
spent most of the book
if
with
you
Trump's
read,
cock in your
if you
mouth.
read, sorry?
Whoa!
You spent most of the book with Trump and sucking him off.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. The
No, I
prologue was.
My first surrounded claim is that masculinity has never been toxic.
Uh-oh.
1 second.
Hey!
How do you do? I'm Piers.
So I guess where I want to kind of start is talking about masculinity. So I view this, do you think that this is like socially emergent, I imagine, to some degree?
Well, I think the truth about the whole toxic debate about masculinity is it's a completely new phenomenon. Before, about 30 years ago, nobody ever used that phrase. It's only really in the last 10 years it's suddenly been amplified and used for absolutely everything. But I thought it might be useful to just start with something that Chris Williamson, you may know him,
Wait, this is not a fact check. This is just giving some more information, but okay.
great guy, and he came on my show recently, and he said that all the following things have been blamed on toxic masculinity in the media in the last year and a half. Gang violence, climate change, the financial crisis, Brexit, the election of Donald Trump, not wearing a face mask, eating meat, physical fitness, fast food, capitalism, communism.
What is the point of, first of all, I like how you brought notes for this, good one. But like, all the things that the media has blamed for on toxic masculinity, like the media, is this every single claim ever? Like, do you have to defend every single claim ever that everybody, all the media made? Like, this is retarded, but okay.
Hip hop, smelling of Axe body spray, being stoic, risk-taking, religion, but also secularism and atheism, playing board games, being interested in cars, and saying hello or have a nice day. So I have already committed at least one crime because I've already said hello to you.
Good
So
one.
my point being,
I'm actually really offended by that
this.
too.
Sorry?
Because I'm actually very offended by that too.
No, the thing is, I think the point I would make is, I think in a time when young men in particular, I've got 3 sons from 32 to 24, I think we've got to a weird place where they feel like they are the most downtrodden, picked upon people in society. With good reason in many cases. And a lot of it is down to this.
With good reason?
Where they don't know what masculinity is. My argument is, I don't think it's ever been toxic. What's happened is you have men behaving badly, but you also have women behaving badly. And no one calls that toxic femininity.
Well,
Over to you.
I actually do call it toxic.
Also, listen, I know Kyle's on a repeal everybody arc. There is absolutely toxic femininity, and we have words for it. We just like don't call it toxic. I think people would say things like being like catty or being like, I don't know if you say like bitchy or like a cunt. Like there are definitely things that people have identified as like, oh, these are female behaviors that are toxic, but they just don't call it toxic femininity. But to pretend like, and there's a deluge of like toxic tropes and traits associated with women, you know, like the whole branch of, now we call them like, the joke is he hates his wife, I hate my wife jokes or whatever, right? Like these are things that have been identified and known about in society for a long time. It's not like I don't know, I think it's kind of cringe, but.
Femininity. I think when you look at, I do. When you look at like gender studies and philosophy on this, right? We use this term called masculinities and femininities because we understand that like the like samurai era of masculinity looks very different than maybe the knights of the round table and whatnot. So we understand that masculinity has somewhat morphed and shifted. And in every form of these masculinities or femininities, there are unhealthy elements to each of them. Could you grant me that?
Well, it depends what you mean. I mean, what do you think masculinity is?
In our society, I think masculinity.
No, not in your society. Just generally, what is it?
Yeah, in North America, we would broadly view it as like.
Well, you can't just say North America. Masculinity is a thing. It's not like territory specific. It has become that way with the toxic element.
Well,
but actual masculinity, when it was first devised as a
think
word, it's not an American thing. It's a global thing.
Do you think that Athenian masculinity and Spartan masculinity were the same in the Greeks?
I think masculinity has never changed. All that's changed is the interpretation of it. And what I can't abide is this modern phenomenon that everything about masculinity, everything about being a man, which I am currently identifying as, everything about me is supposed to be toxic.
So I would reject the idea that everything that masculinity is toxic. I think that there can be bad elements of anything.
What do you like about men?
What do I like about
Yeah.
men? Lots of things. I think that like the idea of protectionism is good. I think the like willingness to kind of like self-sacrifice is very tied to the version of masculinity we have. I think that that's a very good thing. I think the like desire to provide is also a really good thing, and stand up for like principles and strength. I think all of these things
kind of
are
agree
wonderful
with that.
things. Well, the
Do you
issue.
like men to be hunters, providers, protectors?
I don't really care about them being hunters.
Really? Well, how are they going to get all these things to help you and protect you?
In this economy, I'd prefer them just to be like fiscally capable. Let's go back to the Athenians.
fair enough.
Let's go back to Athenians and Spartans, though, right? If you want to say masculinity has always been the same, well, the issue is history would disagree with you, right? In Athens, for example, it was completely normal for you to participate in civility and talk and do philosophy, but Spartan men, for example, wouldn't even touch coins, right? They viewed it as a very different thing. Whereas
What's
if
that
you,
got to do with them being masculine?
well, because the version of masculinity that they had viewed certain things like commerce as feminine. If you go to samurais, they view poetry as masculine. Whereas if you go to like Victorian era, poetry is often associated with
Right, but
femininity.
but what does any of that got to do with toxic masculinity?
Because if we look at masculinity, we
Why
have
is
to
he so-
acknowledge that it is emergent out of a society that we are participating in. When I said, well, in North America, you rejected that and go, well, that's the foundational piece of this. What we're talking about, toxic masculinity, is essentially a North American version of masculinity that we seem to not like.
Well, no, it's not. It's a symptom of, and forgive my phraseology here, but it's a symptom of weak, whiny, woke wastrels who've decided they're going to revise what masculinity is.
I think it's
They're gonna make-
intergenerational trauma.
Hang on. I'll give you a chance to respond. And they're going to make all men feel terrible. They're going to make men hate themselves. They're going to make everybody else hate men. And at that point, I'm like, what are you doing here?
I think it's saying me that Piers isn't a grift. He's actually just retarded. I don't know if you say retarded. I think that like this is something I've talked about before. The issue is that like men and women on the average, when you draw these like curves, are different biologically, right? But we'll take a difference of like 60-40, or we'll take a difference of like 55-45, and then like biologically that will be the difference. We'll exaggerate it socially to like 90-10 or 95-5. And then people fall into this trap because they take way too much for granted philosophically or socially or culturally, where they assume that like, oh, well, biologically, it must be like a 95-5 split. It must be a 90-10 split, that men are more attuned to this and women are more attuned to that. I was like, well, no, there are differences biologically for sure. Sometimes significant, sometimes nowhere near as significant as people think, but then we hyper exaggerate those socially, and then people think the exaggerations are the underlying physical, biological truth, which is not generally the case.
Why would women, for example, want their men to be weak, whiny, woke wastrels?
Well, I think the issue that you're neglecting here is the high levels of intergenerational trauma amongst men. I mean, if we go back to World War II, it's followed by the Vietnam War, right? We see men dying by the thousands, and then they come back and they have PTSD, and then they go off again and die by the thousands. And so when we look at like the lack of masculinity and masculine role models, we have to understand this through a lens of understanding that like men have been like scooped out and killed over and over, and then when they come back, they're destroyed. And there isn't really an answer for men. I agree that there's a systemic lacking of answer on the left for men in a lot of ways. The issue is that we can't
I
address
think the left hate
problem.
men. I mean,
Just to pause you.
They do. Even movies like Barbie.
I'm left.
Okay, here's a little secret for you. I'm slightly left.
We know. I'm the true leftist, but the left left me behind. Was Ken... Dude, it's been so long since I saw the Barbie movie, I don't even remember as much. I don't know.
an old-fashioned liberal.
Do you hate men?
I'm not a... You see, they all think probably I'm a right-wing headbanger. I'm not. I'm an old-fashioned liberal. I believe in liberalism. And I believe there's nothing wrong with being feminine or masculine. I hate the way that masculinity has been tarred with this brush of everything about it is toxic.
I agree. But the issue is that you can't put the baby out with the bathwater. You have to look at things like Victorian Stoicism and recognize how that has harmed young men. Because
Stoicism? Don't be ridiculous.
Hold on, Victorian Stoicism, not Greek, not Greco-Stoicism.
Stoicism generally is a good trait.
I love Stoicism, Hellenistic Stoicism, not Greek.
Well, let me read you something. You've raised Stoicism. The American Psychological Association released a set of guidelines to help psychologists work with men and boys, in which it stated that male masculine traits like stoicism, competitiveness, achievement, eschewal of the appearance of weakness, adventure, and risk should all be discarded. Now, I would categorize all of those things as the very best of being...
Wait, what? Hold on.
Competitiveness, in which it stated that male masculine traits like stoicism, competitiveness, achievement, eschewal of the appearance of weakness, adventure, and risk should all be discarded. Now, I would categorize all of those things as the very best of being a...
Hold on. What is this? Find me this quote. What is this about? He said the American Psychological Association? Or psychologist? Read the fact check? I don't even know if this is related to this. I don't know. Their fact checks aren't always... Oh. It's the APA's new guidelines for psychological practice of boys and men, try to recognize and address these problems. Okay, what do we have? Let me just start from the beginning. I don't think this is that long. For the first time ever, This is 2019. This is in 2019. For the first time ever, APA is releasing guidelines to help psychologists work with men and boys. At first blush, this may seem unnecessary. For decades, psychology focused on men, particularly white men, to the exclusion of all others, and men still dominate professionally and politically. As of 2018, 95.2% of CEOs at Fortune 500 companies were men, according to a 2017 analysis by Fortune, and 16 of the top companies, 80% of all high-ranking executives were male. Meanwhile, the 115th Congress was 81%. Something is amiss for men. Okay, men commit 90% of homicides in the United States and represent 77% of homicide victims. They're the demographic group most at risk for being victimized by violent crime. They are 3.5 times more likely than women to die by suicide. And their life expectancy is 4.9 years shorter than women's. Boys are far more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than girls, and they face harsher punishments in school, especially boys of color. The APA's new guidelines for psychological practice with boys and men strive to recognize and address these problems in boys and men while remaining sensitive to the field's androcentric past. 13 years in the making, they draw on more than 40 years of research showing that traditional masculinity is psychologically harmful and that socializing boys to suppress their emotions causes damage that echoes both inwardly and outwardly. The APA's guidelines for psychological practice with girls and women were issued in 2007, and like the guidelines for boys and men, aim to help practitioners assist their patients despite social forces that can harm mental health. Many researchers who study femininity also work on masculinity. Several contributors to the guidelines for girls and women have also contributed to the new guidelines for boys and men. Quote, though men benefit from patriarchy, they are also impinged upon by patriarchy, says Ronald F. Levend, EDD, a professor emeritus of psychological... What are we got? Hold on, wait, I thought this quote was in here. Oh, the main thrust of the subsequent research is that the traditional masculinity marked by stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression is, on the whole, harmful. Men socialized in this way are less likely to engage in healthy behaviors. For example, a 2011 study led by Kristen Springer, PhD of Rutgers University, found that men with the strongest beliefs on masculinity were only half as likely as men with more moderate masculine beliefs to get preventative health care. And in 2007, researchers led by James Mahalik, PhD at Boston College, found that that more men conform to masculine norms. The more that men conform to masculine norms, the more likely they were to consider as normal risky health behaviors such as heavy drinking, using tobacco, and avoiding vegetables to engage in these risky behaviors themselves. Is that the quote that he was pulling from? Hold on.
Achievement stated that male masculine traits like stoicism, competitiveness, achievement, eschewal of the appearance of weakness, adventure, and risk should all be discarded. Now,
If anybody has that exact quote, I'd be curious, because it doesn't sound like it's saying these things should be discarded. Just that that can't be like, quote up, search components of. Oh, okay, hold on. Components of. Right, this is not the quote. Or there's a different quote, but. Psychologists can discuss with boys and men the messages they have received about withholding affection from other males to help them understand how components of traditional masculinity, such as emotional stoicism, homophobia, not showing vulnerability, self-reliance, and competitiveness, might deter them from forming close relationships with male peers. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know if this is... I don't know if I believe this is a real quote, but whatever.
Would categorize all of those things as the very best of being a real man. Why would you want them discarded?
I don't want most of those things. Let's talk about stoicism.
I think we agree with each other. I think you agree with me too much. Anyway, it's lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, Piers.
How are you?
Ceci.
Ceci, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay. First, I want to say that I don't think that masculinity is toxic.
Great.
I just think
Debate
that
over.
some men
Hang on.
use their.
Hang on.
Wait.
Ceci, debate over.
No, it's not.
That's the whole point
the
of my
problem
argument. I
is
agree with you.
no, because you're talking about a trait, right? So I don't think masculinity is toxic. I think men use their masculinity in toxic ways or hide other traits that are toxic behind their masculinity.
Okay, I don't agree with that. Here's why.
Why?
They're not using their masculinity. They're just being bad people.
Okay.
So
but
I think there's a clear difference.
So then men like
Oof, this is like that XKCD comic on steroids or whatever, where the two people are bad and the guy's bad at math and he's like, wow, you're bad at math, and then the girl's bad at math and it's like, wow, girls are bad at math. It's like if you're part of a dominant group and you do something bad, it's always just a personal reflection of yourself, but it's never a poor reflection of the majority group because most of the people belong to that group and they wouldn't want that group to be poorly reflected.
Andrew Tate when they are bad people, but then stand like I'm a protector, I'm a provider. They're
Yeah.
using their masculinity.
I've
as a
interviewed
guise.
I've interviewed Andrew Tate a number of times. Here's what I think about him. I think he says a lot of things which young men gravitate to because very few other people are trying to empower them about the way they look. Hang on.
No, I'm not.
Let me finish my sentence.
I can have a facial reaction to it if I want to, right?
Actually, that's fair enough. You
Right.
can. You can look horrified. But here's the point about Andrew Tate: is a lot of the things he says, I know why they resonate with young men.
Okay.
Because young men feel sort of worthless, they feel disenfranchised by society, they're not sure where to go. Many of them lack father figures. There's chest beating Andrew Tate saying, keep fit, don't abuse yourself too much.
Just women.
Well, I'm going to come to that. And so he says all these things which men go, yeah, that's good. Aspire to be great, aspire to be successful, do this, work hard, and all this. And then you get to his blatant misogyny, right? He is a terrible misogynist. He thinks that women should be left at home, never allowed to vote,
I know who he is,
never
yeah.
allowed to work. No, but my point is, I agree with you about that trait of his, right? I think it's horrible. But that's not toxic masculinity.
But
that is actually misogyny. There's a word for it.
I guess the reason, but I think that all of this was fueled by people like Andrew Tate, because like you said, toxic masculinity, we've never spoke about this before. But I think the reason it's on the table now is because of men like Andrew Tate. It's not because of women calling men
So call
toxic.
it what it is. Call him
it's
a
literally
misogynist.
because red pill podcasters, especially during the pandemic, if you were already a loner, you became even more alone, so they needed a community. So everyone's living life online in these, what they thought was a community, because all these men did was validate their shitty feelings that they already had about themselves.
Yes, but
it was an echo chamber, and they have to keep them sad and angry, tell them to place the blame on women and minorities so that they get their pockets filled.
But here's the thing.
They monetize
Am I allowed to get a
insecurities
word
and
in?
trauma. You can have your facial
Time out,
reactions.
Time out.
Go ahead.
Politely. Time
ahead.
out. I think what you're talking about is misogyny. There's already a word for that. It's not toxic masculinity. That's the point of my argument. I don't think masculinity has ever been toxic. I do think some men are horrible misogynists
But do you think
and should
some
be
of them
called
hide
out,
behind
as
it?
I call them
mean,
out.
Don't you think some men hide behind their masculinity? I'm sick of hearing men say, we have to protect and provide.
Why shouldn't we?
Well, no. But the thing is half of you, what are you going to protect me from? Another man. And half of them can't hunt down a job. Like, I don't
Or other women.
Or other women. Sure, yeah, other people. But that's the thing I'm saying is that men, I don't understand.
If you, and I guess nobody cares because everybody's like emotionally tied to whatever arguments they're making. The one guy did it yesterday, who by the way, I don't know who that guy was, but I appreciate the conversation we were allowed to have because I think he was honest the whole time, and I think it was a really good conversation. But if you're trying to highlight like the benefits of you being a man, especially to a woman, and you're saying retarded shit like I can fight off burglars, dog, nobody cares about this shit. This is not happening in the real world all the time, where you have to fight with assassins and burglars. You're not James Bond. You're not dating the princess of, whatever, the crown of whatever, okay? People want you to be able to hold a job, not be emotionally retarded, and for a huge bonus, okay, be able to clean up after yourself, all right? Like, these are more important than, like, I can fight off with my bare hands, 10 invaders that come into my house to steal and rape all my, like, Jesus, it's so cringe. You're not Batman, okay? You never will be.
Why I feel like a lot of blame gets placed on women for all of this, but in reality, you've done it to each other.
I don't blame women for
You've
that.
done it to each other.
I don't blame women for any of this. I think that, well, actually, that's not completely true. I blame some women who have deliberately, in my opinion, like a lot of men have done too, taken the word masculinity and they have traduced it into meaning something it was never intended to mean. Like I said, those words, which the American Psychological Association have deemed unacceptable and should be discarded, are all the absolute foundation of what I believe it takes to be a man.
Ah, damn it. I wanted
Just
that.
when we're getting to know each other.
Pick me for the last 10. I got a lot
the
to say.
big
I'll think about it. How are you?
Good to see you.
What's your name?
Parker.
Parker, I'm Piers.
I've been on your show, bro.
Yes, I thought I recognized you. When was that?
After the Jordan Peterson Jubilee debate.
Yes, that's right, you
Yeah,
did.
he has quoted us as gaytheists on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I think it was ridiculous. I'm literally straight, but
Oh, you're straight?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I can understand why you'd find that annoying.
I don't find it annoying.
Wait, you called me gay, the gaytheist. Why'd you find that ridiculous? Well, because I'm not gay. Is that the right answer to that? Wait, what? Some guy is you. It's like, I'm actually straight. I feel like it's ridiculous. Okay, that's wild. Whatever. No, they're good. Never
I
mind.
think it was ridiculous. I'm literally straight, but
Oh, you're straight?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I can understand why you'd find that annoying.
I don't find it annoying. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to use that as an argument. But in
I
general,
will not call you a gaytheist.
okay, in general, the point that I would make
I don't know
here
if it
is
would
that
make
toxic
sense if they were
masculinity is kind
gay.
of an overexpression of certain masculine traits that we see in this certain context to be harmful. We're not saying all masculine traits are harmful or it's harmful to be a masculine man. It's certain characteristics that we would
Which
associate with
masculine trait
masculinity.
do you think is harmful?
Yeah, like for example, an overexpression of stoicism, and I think that a lot of red pill people.
What?
Wait, hold up. Let me explain. And I said an overexpression
How
of
can
stoicism.
stoicism
What?
ever,
Be
ever,
overexpressed?
ever be a bad thing? Explain to me.
Yeah. So again, if you were to specifically
It's all a definition thing because he's going to define the traits as when followed to 100%, it's going to be a good thing. I already have foreseen this whole conversation. It's going to be like Parker's going to argue. Is this Dean or Parker? This is Dean. if you're too stoic and you don't share your emotions enough, it's a really bad thing. But he's going to say, Piers is going to be like, well, the definition of stoicism actually is not hiding your emotions too much. It's just hiding them in an appropriate amount. So you can never actually be too stoic, because the epitomized version of that trait and the most stoic you can be is always going to be healthy. I feel like it's going to be the back and forth, but all right, let's go.
Hide your feelings and put them underneath, specifically for, like, say, the death of a loved one. I don't think that would be harmful, or I mean positive specifically for you addressing your feelings in that circumstance. I think you should address those feelings, talk about them, express them to loved ones and people that are comfortable, you're comfortable around.
That doesn't mean you can't still be stoic.
Well, then what do you mean
There
by
it is,
stoicism?
yeah.
Because I'm talking about an
Stoicism-
overexpression
It's just
of
when you
keeping
control
down
your
your
emotions.
and not expressing
No,
them.
that's
not what stoicism is.
It's just
positively
controlling them, being in control of
Stoicism
your...
doesn't mean you have to be an unemotional, Spock from Star Trek. That's not what it means at all. Stoicism means that when you're dealt a tough blow in life, you're able to reach inside yourself and deal with it in a strong manner, right? Which is
Wait,
a good
I'm sorry.
thing.
That's not Dean. That is Parker. My bad. Wait, I thought didn't Parker used to have darker hair? Am I crazy? Do these people look similar? Am I?
I always quote to my
Parker.
kids, I can all tell you the speech off by heart. There's a scene in my favorite films were the Rocky movies. The first four were great. The fifth one was a turkey. The sixth
You
one,
went to dinner with Dean? No, I went to dinner with Dean and Parker.
there's a scene in my favorite films were the Rocky movies. The first four were great. The fifth one was a
His
turkey.
name is Dean Parker? No, that's Dean. Oh, it is Dean. Okay, you. Parker has darker hair. Stop trolling me.
Off by heart. There's a scene in my favorite films were the Rocky movies. The first four were great. The fifth one was a turkey. The sixth one came back called Rocky Balboa. And in it, Rocky's son's in his 20s. He's a spoiled brat. He hates being Rocky's son. He's whining about everything. He's kind of pretty woke, weak, whiny, moaning about his lot in life. Telling, woe is me all the time. So Rocky eventually has it out with his son in the street. And he says, look, life is tough. It will beat you down and it will keep you down if you let it. If you want to win at life, you've got to learn it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit, get back up, and keep moving forward.
No.
I wonder, how hard it is to watch movies. I feel like the Palestinian people do this. When you're, so politically brain rotted. You know how it felt like for a while, every single movie that came out, like Emma Vigilant and these people are like, oh my God, this is about Israel-Palestine. Dune 2 is so obviously about Israel-Palestine. This movie, Superman, was about Israel-Palestine. This movie... oh my God, it's Israel. When you watch a movie, you're like, oh my God, this guy's whining. This is a movie about how bad wokeness is. I'm going to be honest. I don't think this is even a hot take nowadays. Back then it was. The Rocky Balboa movie sucked. That was a dog shit movie. I don't even consider it canon. What a horrible movie, okay? I don't think his son was woke. I think his son was just mad because he was tired of living under his father's shadow and was doing too much to separate himself from it, and was resentful of his dad because his dad was going to go do some new boxing match and he just wanted to be his own person. Or I don't know. I don't think that movie had anything to do about woke, but it's been a long time since I've watched it. God, what a horrible movie that was. Ugh.
You've got to learn it's not about how hard you can get you down, and it will keep you down if you let it. If you want to win at life, you've got to learn it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit, get back up, and keep moving forward.
No,
that's how winning is done.
No one's arguing against that in
Right,
general.
so that's
right?
stoic, but that is that is stoicism.
So, but you're
There it
misunderstanding
is.
my argument. I'm saying an overexpression of watering down and not addressing your emotions. I think we both agree that would be a bad expression of your emotions. And oftentimes,
you don't
men view it that way because they say if you address your emotions to any degree,
listen,
there's going to be, don't be a man, don't cry, be a man. So that's an idea of an overexpression of masculinity in
you
that
would say
sense
the phrase,
that becomes toxic.
So you say
Does
the
that make
phrase,
sense?
Yeah, it does. And so you
So
say
then you agree toxic masculinity makes sense.
No. That's not what I'm saying. So you would find it objectionable to use the phrase "man up," for example.
In the context in which someone is having a positive address of their particular emotions, and in typical I wouldn't use it like that type of phrase. You'd say maybe you should address your emotions in a more positive way. Maybe you should go to therapy. A lot of people should do that. Men should go to therapy. It's an important thing that they should do.
And okay, I agree. Hold on, I'm trying to make sure I'm not being toxically masculine right now, okay? I agree that therapy is good, and I think there are times to recommend it, but I feel like it is the most soyest thing in the world when the advice to literally everything. Go to therapy, go to therapy, go to therapy, go to therapy. It's like, okay, thanks, chief. Hey, how do I do it? Did you try going to therapy yet? Have you considered going to therapy? Have you considered going to therapy? Maybe, oh my God. That's the most NPC stock advice. Now, for some people, it can be good, but it's the most non-statement ever. And it usually doesn't address the current issue. It's not very salient. Some guy's like, I need help lifting this box. It's too much for me. It's like, oh, bro, you should add chin-ups and pull-ups into your routine and then come back and pick up that box in 2 months. It's like, okay, thanks, man.
Maybe.
And that would be positive for their life.
I've never been to therapy in my life.
You should.
And
Oh,
I don't
God.
cry all the time.
I
I
don't
think the
either.
last time I cried was about 12 years ago when my grandmother died. I just think this is
to hear
overdone. We've just moved from an incredibly stoic generation, say the World War II generation, who were literally sacrificing their lives for their country, but weren't crying all the time, to an era now.
Wait, why are you associating what I'm saying with crying all the time or being weak?
You're the one who mentioned crying, so let me just explain what I'm talking about. I don't think it suits anybody to encourage a society to constantly be over-emotional either.
I'm not saying
I'm not saying you should suppress emotions, and if you feel emotions about something, I'm all for it. I can get emotional with the best of it, normally about my football team, but I don't spend all my time blubbing like a baby. And my argument with well, hang on, I'm going to finish my point. I think that if you look at the woke world generally, there seems to be a premium on over-emoting and not enough of a premium, in my view, of stiff upper lip, pull yourself together and crack on. Because let me tell you, there are two things you want to worry about in life, really worry about. I say this to my kids.
What do you have to worry about?
Dying and getting a terminal illness. Outside of those two things, everything is surmountable. You can overcome anything.
What about if your partner cheats on you?
But what you've got, yeah,
like,
even
does
that.
Make sense? Okay, so there are plenty of examples we can give where people are going to have like, legitimate
is,
circumstances to cry or be sad.
But
like I'm asking you, like in the circumstance, give a specific what you're referencing in terms of these woke liberals of how they're being too overly emotional.
Well, you're talking to me about why you want people to be more emotional. I'm telling you, I don't think that's
I want them to express
a
it
good
in
thing.
positive manners, like go to therapy, like how I told you.
Yeah, but I think we're over therapy. Everyone I know over here goes to therapy.
You haven't gone to therapy at all. How are you over therapy?
Why don't you come and talk to me if you want to talk to somebody? I'll soon sort you out.
I can talk to my therapist and we can actually engage in positive reconstruction of how I address things. Yes, actually, it's been very helpful for my mental health and my emotional health to be able to talk them through, to be able to like, what can I do to like make myself feel better in these circumstances? Am I being genuinely like real here? Like, or am I being a little bit too overly emotional in circumstances? It's totally a question. I ask my therapist all the time. So if you want to talk about being overly emotional, how to address being overly emotional, how about you just start with therapy? What's your solution? What's your solution?
Calm down.
I'm calm. I'm totally calm. Wait, do you think me talking fast is not being like calm?
Just think you don't want me to get a word in, right? And
I wanted to finish my statement.
Right, I just think people go to therapy too much. Sorry, I do. You may not like to hear it, because I just think going and talking to some stranger about all your problems all the time, get a grip.
It's not all the time. It's every once in a while you go and talk about your problems specifically so you can address them. Do you not talk about your problems ever with anyone?
Parker,
this is the problem I talk about.
Parker, stop talking. I look at you and I see somebody who's confident, you're a good talker, you're obviously intelligent, you've also got a lot going for you. Stop spending all this money going to see some stranger to go over everything in agonizing detail.
It's not that much money to be able to go every once in a while to go see a therapist for me specifically in my life.
I've never been to one in my life.
It's not much money for you. You could easily go with the money that you make and go talk to a therapist.
I've no need to go.
I understand you don't want to. Everyone says that specifically before going into it. I said the same thing. But I'm telling you, you can actually address your emotions in a positive way.
Parker, here's what I'd rather do. I would rather, honestly, have groups of people like you in the woke world, right, who clearly are struggling with regular life, right?
I'm not struggling with
everything's a calamity, everything's a problem, has to be overanalyzed, over-dissected, over-therapized. And I just think you've all got to be given the mental tools to deal with ordinary life. Ordinary life.
We already have them. I actually have gone to therapy to do that.
Ordinary life. Yeah, but without...
I'm sure this is in Dean's head somewhere, but like like if you want to make this applicable to an ordinary dude, I guess, like the idea behind therapy is like, well, sometimes you go to the gym, if you don't know what to do, you get a personal trainer, right? So the personal trainer will tell you to work on. I feel like you would sell the therapy thing in a similar sense. If you don't really know what to do, and a lot of men, for whatever reason, don't really have the tools to deal with their mental health, so you go and you get like a mental health trainer, right? Like a personal trainer from a gym, and then you like work on it. That's it. That's all you have to sell it as. I don't think you have to go any deeper than that. It's like an easy to understand. That is Parker. Hold on. Dean and Parker. Parker debates Trump supporters. Oh. Wait, featuring Dean Withers. Wait, what the f does Dean look like? Dean Withers. Oh, okay, wait, this is Parker. Okay. I swear to God, Parker's hair used to be darker. Okay. Yeah, but I would just thought it that way, but I don't know.
I'm going to therapy all the time.
Wait, what's your solution? What's your solution?
People, I think at school and colleges, we need to reinforce, this comes back to masculinity with men. We need to reinforce the mental tools required for life.
Such as?
Well, I can tell you what
like he should just agree with us. Like, that's true. But like, you can also talk to a therapist about mental tools. Sometimes it's better to have like a one-on-one session. You don't have to go to it forever. Or maybe you don't. If you feel like everything in your life is working out, that's fine. But
can chart the absolute descent of this in the wrong way. And I think it began in America, when you started giving kids participation prizes for coming last to school. Absolute shambles. I mean, whoever thought of that?
How does this have to do with actually like men making their emotions better
I'm explaining.
It's participation trophies. Oh my gosh.
I'm explaining, because if young people are conditioned to think that if you come last at something, you get a prize, it is the worst possible preparation for the real world.
So what's the actual solution? Parker, you're just telling a problem again. Problem. What's the solution?
Parker, if I could finish my sentence.
Start with the solution.
The solution is you just stop talking for a moment, right?
How about you actually provide a solution? All you've done is bring about problems.
Parker, I've just given you a solution.
Wow,
I want
That's not a solution. That's a problem.
Yes, you stop participation prizes. You condition kids to deal with the real world when they become adults.
You're
Otherwise, when they
men
get
not having the ability
stop
to express their emotions
talking,
in a positive
Parker.
way is
Parker.
literally.
It's because of the same issue of intensity. People tell you to go to therapy after having an argument with a friend or having a bad day. The other issue that is happening is since men are having less and less friends, they are less able to talk about any issue. They have no issue. About any issue they have. So issues pile up without being addressed. Yeah, sure, yeah. If you throw the therapy thing around in an argument, I think that's like a period argument to me, where like if a girl's being emotional, it's like, are you on your period? You're not like saying it because you genuinely care. You're just like trying to appeal to some external third thing and use like some authoritative own, like, oh, you're mad. Hey, bro, you need therapy. And it's like, okay, well, f you. If you just use it, I guess I didn't even consider that. If you use it like as a weaponized statement like that, I think that's really bad. And will leave a bad taste in most people's mouths, but...
Participation
One of
trophy not
Jordan
being
Peter's
there.
advantages are annoying. Look,
Have you been on your own show? You
Parker.
interrupt.
The one thing I've said before, one of my biggest frustrations with this concept of like toxic masculinity, I don't even use the phrase because I think it's worthless to use because people obviously get super unhinged as soon as you say it. But like it's been understood for a long time, and almost all young male coming of age stories, all of them, every sports movie, every whatever, it's all of it is about addressing like quote unquote toxic masculinity. It's always some guy who's some hotshot who doesn't know how to pass the ball, who has to learn how to play with a team, or some dude who's too much of a hothead, he's too ego driven, he's got to learn to, like in Top Gun, like be the wingman and not leave your partner. Like all of these movies have existed and all of them have dealt with this. They just didn't call it toxic masculinity. I feel like the one that I would appeal to also the most here is like literally about toxic masculinity and literally about therapy is Good Will Hunting. Like, would you argue that in Good Will Hunting that Matt Damon's character was worse off for meeting Robin Williams' character, that he should have just never gone? Or like, it's such an easy analog. I don't know how Piers would address it or deal with it, but I mean that's essentially what we're talking about, right?
To me the whole time, and now you're just getting the same thing.
Well, because you
you're
never
just
stop talking.
Don't,
You're
don't
like
be
a robot.
mad. Don't be mad.
Parker.
Are you mad?
No, I'm trying to finish my sentence.
It's okay.
Parker, come on, calm down. You're shaking.
I'm totally
Hey,
calm.
Parker.
I'm not.
Wait, am I crazy? Was Parker? Dude, I feel like he's giving Dean energy. I feel like this is like the Dean arguments, but maybe Parker was always like this. The TikTok debaters, TikTok produced a whole generation of debate pedophilia. Okay, it's not good. These people are way too hyped up on like the formal debate stuff. I say formal, but just like the owning somebody on points and yeah.
Shaking at all.
Parker, you're shaking.
I'm not shaking. Why do you have to act like I'm? Why do you have to say something delusional to try to deflect away from the fact that you haven't addressed anything meaningful here?
Christ, Parker. My point is, there's a brilliant book by Jonathan Haidt about the impact.
Wait.
Meaningful here.
Christ, Parker. My point is,
This is like Mizkif mixed with somebody else. It is. You guys see it.
There's a brilliant book by Jonathan Haidt about the impact of smartphones on young brains, right? And it goes back to 2010 when smartphones became smart. In other words, you could access absolutely everything. And I look at what happens on my feed each day, and I'm horrified.
Smart does not mean that. I think smart generally refers to the ability of a device to do things or navigate complex problems without as much human input. That smart doesn't just mean you have access to information. So like when you talk about like a smart electrical grid, it's like stuff that can auto balance without a bunch of human input. Or you talk about like smartphones or phones that you don't have to manually figure out every single thing. It does a lot of stuff automatically. It's not smart doesn't mean it gives you access to smart information. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter, but
smart. In other words, you could access absolutely everything. And I look at what happens on my feed each day, and I'm horrified about what may happen to younger, more impressionable brains, right? And so young people's brains have got scrambled. So since 2010, there's a direct correlation of young people who get ever more anxious, ever more depressed, in some cases, tragically, ever more suicidal. And it's been driven by this constant negative dopamine. So partly, I understand why what I call the weak, whiny, woke wastrels are like they are, because they're constantly getting overloaded with negative dopamine, which is making them think the whole world's about to end. In fact, as Steven Pinker has explained in great detail, statistically, this has never been a better time to be alive. There are fewer wars than in recorded history. People are living longer and healthier than in recorded history. There's less child poverty than in recorded history. Water is cleaner than in recorded history, etc., etc., etc. The problem is social media amplifying all the bad stuff going on, making young people think the world's about to end. It's not. So I would like young people to be given the proper tools in their education process to enable them to deal with the real world and make them catastrophize less.
he's right about this one. Like he is, but that doesn't apply to this conversation. When you want to say the world is better now than it ever was, that's an argument that you have with people with you fuckers in chat sometimes, who are like, oh my God, like there's so much more fucked today than it ever has been, and the boomers and the billionaires and everybody's ruined things more. That's when you bring that argument out. You should be very careful, and I would even say, I would extend this as like personal, like real life advice. You should never, ever, ever compare your situation to somebody else's to try to delegitimize a way that you feel about a particular thing. I think that is incredibly toxic. It never makes you feel better, and it only makes you feel like shit. If you've had an issue where you got injured or you didn't make it into some college class or whatever, or whatever, some bullshit, you got fired from some job, and your thought process is like, okay, well, I shouldn't feel bad about this because there are kids starving in Africa, that never makes you feel better. Nobody comes away from that thing like, oh, okay, actually I feel way better now. I can eat food. Instead, it just makes you feel like shit because now you're like, I don't have a good reason to feel bad. I'm supposed to be the worst person in the universe. Don't ever do that. Okay, it's not good. It's just not a productive use of your emotional energy.
I do think in this country, as in my country,
because like pain and suffering is relative. It's relative to your own conditions and to the people immediately around you. This is why income disparity is probably more of a driver psychologically of unhappiness than absolute, wealth or absolute disparity. Because when you see people around you doing well and you're not, that feels worse than just everybody doing not well.
Deal with the real world and make them catastrophize less. I do think in this country, as in my country, young people are over-medicated. I think they go to therapy too much. I think they end up over-analyzing and over-self-obsessing. I think it can make them quite narcissistic. It's all me, and woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. I think we've got to a place, oddly, in society where losing is deemed to be better than winning, where winning is something to be frowned upon, actually better to be a good loser and get all your mates to like you going, oh my God, I just failed my driving test for the 20th time, but I'm so proud of myself. I'm like, you're a terrible driver. Get better, right? So it's all about how you treat these things. And out of it, hopefully, I would...
Like, I don't want to be mean to any group of people, but one thing that I think that has helped me like navigate a lot of different stuff is when you think two things are super different, try to like analyze like what the words are and try to reduce these to concepts more than just looking at like the most surface level thing. So like if you look at on the surface level, for instance, this gets mean, you shouldn't do this, but like, people are like, oh, we have more participation trophies and all this bullshit than we have. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe that's kind of true in terms of like an actual physical participation trophy, but like, not to be mean, but like you want us to honor vets and all this bullshit. Like, why the should I give a that you happen to do this job? Like, you chose to do it, or if you didn't choose to do it, you got drafted. Like, good job. You got shot. Like, why the should I care about that? Like, why do you get to participate? Did you do so? Like, you could unironically copy the Trump line at that point, where it's like, you were a prisoner of war. Okay, good job. Why'd you get captured, dipshit? Like, I would never say you should say that, but I'm saying like, I feel like everybody in society has had some version or some form of like, hey, you did a thing. Even if you didn't 100% succeed at it, congratulations for trying. There's only one winner in any competition. You can't make everybody else feel like
produce a nation of people like me, partner.
I would love to be able to
Perfect way to end.
I'd love to be able to respond.
And that's the feeling. Good to see. My next surrounding claim is that woke ideology is anti-liberal and fascistic.
How's it going?
How are you?
Good to meet you. My name is Evan.
Evan?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Evan.
My issue with this claim is I find associating
No, I was going to say, hey, this is the first guy that comes up that doesn't look evil, but I just realized we're on Piers now. All the other ones really do look like, the timer ran out. Yeah, Jesus.
Good to meet you. My name is Evan.
Evan?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Evan.
My issue with this claim is I find associating wokeism with fascism to be quite ironic. Wokeism to me is a term that's used, a shorthand pejorative term that's used to describe left-wing cultural politics. And I think the term wokeism and people on the right often use it as a means to deflect and distract from class politics. And there's a very key example of this. So the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. This was something that you actually celebrated quite a bit when it initially came into office. Elon Musk was coming in to...
Oh, yes. Dude, there's so much that people need to be like held to account for. Doge is definitely one of them. There is no world where conservatives can defend Doge as being anything other than a monumental failure. How humiliating. Absolutely nothing came from Doge. There's just no world where you feel good about that.
Root out waste, fraud, and abuse. Obviously, they found 0 instances of fraud. To the extent they found waste, it was just stuff that they ideologically disagreed with.
Yep.
And there were all these programs they were cutting, for example, like LGBTQ programs in Latin America, et cetera. And we were celebrating this all as a big victory. But this was all a distraction because what the agency was actually doing was destroying the National Labor Relations Board, a board that is designed to protect workers' abilities to unionize, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a bureau that is meant to protect consumers from billionaire capitalists like Elon Musk. These institutions, along with the IRS, all of these institutions meant to actually protect.
Good. Also, labor unions, always unions. Okay. 1, because we're rich and so them. Okay. Number 1. And number 2, because the head of the labor, was it this board, didn't support Biden in the goddamn election, even though Biden, for the first time, joined picket line people or whatever and was doing everything he could for labor relations. Yeah. What, the Teamsters or whatever? Those guys. I'm state today, but next time Moot is in Discord, I'm so ready to argue why NCAA football is better than NFL. What a retarded thing. I'm state today. Why do you guys... I feel like either I'm becoming more senile or you guys are just like typoing or grammatically up so much in your statements at me and it's triggering the out of me. Stop! Firebomb Cake Chat said, the fact that it kneecapped US aid is enough for conservatives. I guess, but that's not waste, fraud, or abuse. That's just things that they disagreed with. Destiny, I've been seeing this too. Thank you, exempt druids.
And put a check on capitalist billionaires like Elon Musk and the consolidation of fascistic power in our state. All of that was being distracted by this term wokeism. And I think that like when you obsess over things like trans people in sports or DEI policies and XYZ, it is a deliberate means to distract from those very real issues.
Really?
Yes, 100%.
Well, let's take what you just mentioned, trans athletes in sports. Do you think it's a good idea?
Not necessarily.
No, don't get baited. No, how did he get baited by it? Wait, he's going to say not necessarily, and we don't need to talk about this. He just said, one of the things you guys do, this is why you distract the trans issue so much. And he's like, oh, really? Well, why don't we discuss trans issues? Okay, fine, let's... No, don't let him do it.
Well, let's take what you just mentioned, trans athletes in sports. Do you think it's a good idea?
Not necessarily. I mean,
it either is or it isn't.
So it depends on which sport, and it depends on which
sport
but
is it?
notice what you're doing right now.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Thank you. Okay, God, thank you. Whew.
I didn't mention it.
Well, what I mentioned is that these are all a means to distract from the very real issue.
Okay.
Can you at least very least acknowledge that you did celebrate Doge despite it rooting out all these institutions that actually impact Americans' lives?
I'll answer you. Sure. I thought that cutting government waste was a good thing.
Sure.
Do I think it was well executed? Not particularly.
Sorry,
to let me finish.
Sorry, go for it.
Do I think it was well executed? Not particularly. You know, Elon left pretty quickly. And
hey, wait, just curious, because I think there's a term for this. What do you call it when you have a desire to do a thing and you try, but it's not well executed, but you give them props for it anyway? If you had to name that thing something, when he's talking about Doge, what would you call it? Just curious. Anybody have any ideas in their mind? Well, if you failed at the thing you were trying to do, but at least you put in some effort and participated in that thing. If you were to give somebody like a trophy for that, like what he's trying to do with Doge right now, what would you call that thing?
The government just carried on spending a ton of money. You know, do I think some of the things they cut were wrong? Yes, I agree with you. Do I think all of them? No, I think they did find examples of waste. So, you know, if you had a proper, consistent, ongoing Doge mentality, which cut genuine things which we all can agree are probably a bit wasteful,
what is
I'd be all for
Doge
it. Do I support
mentality?
everything they cut? No, I don't. But given you mentioned the trans thing, because I hear a lot from the woke left, and I try and say to them, look, if you want to know why Donald Trump got re-elected, your worst nightmare coming true, and you all sit there on election day thinking, how on earth has this happened? Well, one of the reasons was he just stood there. Well, you can shake your head, but one of the reasons is he stood there and went, under me, if I get elected,
no more
then
trans,
I'm
no more
gonna ban
gawk.
trans athletes from women's sport.
Yeah. Well,
no.
Wait, can I just respond?
No,
to that
I'm
directly?
going to add one thing to it, then you can respond. If you remember, Kamala Harris endorsed it, thought it was a good idea. So the first potential female president of the United States thought it was fair and equitable and safe that biological males compete in women's sport. Trump understood that most people in America, most people around the world, outside of the woke left, do not agree with that. And there's a reason we don't agree with it. Let me finish. The Olympics are coming here. Right, to Los Angeles.
And you're also wrong about Imam Khalif, by the way. Yeah.
Well, I'm not wrong about Imam Khalif. Well, Imam Khalif was banned from the World Championships. She's an Algerian boxer, banned from the World Championships because of testing positive for male chromosomes. Right?
That's not true.
Well, it is true.
No, so
you may not want to believe it, but it is true.
So the International Olympic Committee said that Imam Khalif was both born female. She has a female passport. Algeria, you think Algeria, the state of Algeria, recognizes trans identity? Really, Piers? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. The only institution that claimed that she failed in unspecified gender or sex identity test was some Russian-backed organization that is not internationally recognized by the International Olympic Committee. But wait,
hang on.
Let me reset.
Evan, you can't say something and me not challenge you back if you're
wrong. I know, but that's exactly what you did earlier. I just need to quickly get into it.
All Imam Khalif has to do is take a sex test.
Sure, okay.
They're now bringing the sex test in. Then there's no problem. Why do you think Imam Khalif is not taking a sex test?
I don't want you to distract from the fact that the election, there is no evidence that people voted.
I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know when it should be required or not required, but like, I feel like it should be either a rule that you have to do some genetic profiling. It should either be a rule or they shouldn't submit to it. Because the idea that you could like push somebody to like take a sex test, I don't know, it just feels like, especially because it's like medical stuff. I don't know, that seems not like a not okay precedent, I would say, yeah.
Based on their opinions on trans identity.
Let me give it to you.
No, wait, in a Gallup 2024
there was
poll,
no evidence.
In a Gallup 2024 poll, post-election, out of 22 issues, trans issues ranked 22 out of 22.
Can I respond?
In every election in all OECD countries across the world.
What is a sex test? Testing the chromosomes or whatever.
inflation and the
Evan.
economy. Yes, but I
Evan,
just let you go on.
No,
Okay,
let me just
sure,
respond
okay,
to you.
Sure.
Actually, if you read the New York Times the week after the election, they
I did
a
read the
ma-
New York Times,
they-
yeah.
then you will remember a deep
Yeah.
dive they did
And
into
they-
it. Wait a minute, that's talking. You want to talk all the time.
Sorry.
Show me some respect.
Sorry.
There was a New York Times report into a particular commercial ad, campaign ad that the Trump
God,
side put out.
this thing.
And they originally started it in a few sports arenas. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the ad was basically a 30-second mashup of Kamala Harris endorsing trans athletes in women's sport and in women's spaces and so on and so on. And it ended with Kamala is for they.
It's for they, them. And I don't... Somebody linked me this report thing. People are saying this is like the most influential ad in the entire campaign. I never even saw this ad. Now, it might be that it was. Maybe it was on TV more. I don't watch TV. But I never saw any... I feel like I only heard people talk about this ad after the election. Is the only time I heard this. I don't know if I heard it. I mean, I'm sure some people covered it. Maybe it was in places before. Maybe just in different spaces I'm in. But it was on here 24/7. Okay, maybe it's like more of a TV thing. But people are going back and be like, this was the most influential ad in the whole election. Like, was it actually? I don't know. Maybe.
Trans athletes in women's sport and in women's spaces and so on and so on. And it ended with Kamala is for they, them. Donald Trump is for you. The New York Times said that they believe that moved the needle, they're reporting, by as much as 3 points.
Based on what
so
information?
Ask the New York Times.
No, that's not. You understand news agencies aren't conducting polling
if I may
analysis by
finish,
themselves. That same
if I may
article
finish,
cited the Gallup poll
Evan,
that I just identified
yes,
where trans issues ranked
but they said
22
it
out of
moved
22.
one ad moved the needle by 3 points.
And based on what information? If you poll people on what issues that they cared about in the 2024 election,
So you don't
all
think-
of it was centered around economy and inflation. And this is just obvious because this was a global phenomenon. Every incumbent party across the world lost elections.
A lot of Democrats and people on the woke left in particular have tried to assure me that absolutely nobody cares about trans athletes in women's sport.
People care. The right cares, but your median voter cares more about what's in their pocketbook.
My question for you is,
and you're doing exactly what I claimed you were doing earlier by using wokeism to distract from class politics.
My question for you is this: I interviewed a woman called Betty Yee a couple of weeks ago on my show. She's
Detransitioner?
a candidate to be governor of California,
never mind.
and she endorsed in my interview gender-neutral Olympics when it comes to Los Angeles. Now, that to me is where the woke mind virus takes you to complete and utter insanity.
Wait, is this like a real candidate or is this like a no-name person that he found to play like a puppet on it? Is this like a person who has like a shot at winning literally anything, or gender-neutral Olympics? It sounds retarded, but well, maybe I guess it depends on. There are probably like 2 or 3 events I think you can do that are relatively fairish. It's like, I think maybe some forms of long distance running and like shooting, but
Because if there was a gender-neutral Olympics, and this woman might be governor of this state,
Does she have any control over the Olympics or the policies of the Olympics?
Wait a minute.
Is she
Wait a minute,
I'm
wait a
talking
minute, wait a
about the
minute.
mindset that says that actually gender-neutral Olympics. Do you agree with me? Can we reach a point of agreement that that would be absurd?
I don't. You
don't know?
It depends on the sport. It depends on the sport.
She specified
some sports.
She specified,
are, sure,
she specified track and field.
wait, is mandatory sex test that more invasive? That much? You meant to say that much more? Secunda and kick chat. What? Stop typoing in your guys' sentences to me. You're making me feel crazy. Is mandatory sex testing that much? You meant to put much. That much more invasive than a steroid test if we're talking about unfair advantage? There are sex categories in sports for reasons. Seems important. I don't know. Well, no. I think that, like I said, I think it's fine. But I don't think you could give people like a drug test just because they got first, right? Imagine it's like, wait, hold on. How did you just get first place here? You're getting drug tested now, right? No. It would either have to be the whole industry-wide policy, which I think is fine. If they want to do chromosome testing for the Olympics or anything else, I personally, I don't see an issue with that. I don't know why anybody would have an issue with that unless you are infected by the woke mind virus. I think that's fine. But it can't be in response to somebody doing well and then you testing just them. It has to be an industry-wide thing, is what I would say.
Guess what? I don't care what some.
You don't care about women losing?
No. This is a governor's position. This is a state representative who is a mayor.
What's your opinion?
Honestly, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
No, because this person has no institutional power.
Fine.
And this is exactly what I mean. When you champion Elon Musk and you're like, oh my God, he's correctly identifying the woke mind virus and doing X, Y, and Z, you're distracting from the very real issue that we have an unelected billionaire.
You're now distracting.
No, this is.
Answer my question.
We exist in the conversation of a larger.
Evan, answer my question.
It depends on the sport.
Give me a sport where it would be fine.
Archery.
Good to see you.
Well, I mean, is that legitimate? Like, I don't know. Actually, I meant to revive. Actually, archery is probably a bad example. It would probably depend on the types of bows you're shooting, right? Or, well, I don't know what archery contests do. You normally have long distance ones, because I bet archery is probably quite limited by sex, because men are going to have longer arms and are generally stronger, so I can probably do like longbow stuff much easier than women can, so that would be my guess.
How are you?
Good to meet you, Piers.
Good to meet you.
Wait, random question. Oh, wait, actually, two very random questions. Has anybody... Okay, wait. First random question is... in Lord of the Rings, you know how they're like different... I don't know if you call them tribes or cities of elves or whatever. Are there like different places that hobbits live, or do they all live in Hobbiton? Or, I'm sorry, the Shire, not Hobbiton, my bad. Why are there no independent tribes of hobbits or whatever? There are. They talk about foreign hobbits a lot in the books. There are the hobgobblers in the north. Are hobgoblins hobbits? Okay. Okay, also, second question. How many people here have seen the movie The Family Stone? It's a Christmas rom-com. Who's seen this movie before? Is this a popular movie? Have a lot of people in chat seen this, or is this a... I don't watch a lot of Christmas movies. There was a, okay, well, never mind, I can't. There's a lot of strong opinions about the family in this movie and how they treat, I guess, the main character. I don't know if you would say protagonist, but like the main woman rom-commer person in this. And I didn't read all the people's opinions until I watched the movie. It looked like the Sarah Jessica Parker's character was just like a mega autistic, inconsiderate piece of shit loser. But I feel like on Reddit, all the comments that I see about this movie are that the family is crazy and evil and mean, and that they bully her for no reason. But she just seems like a piece of shit to me. But I don't know. Okay, you guys should watch it tonight. We need a DGG opinion on this. I'm curious. All right.
I promise, Mason.
Mason.
I do not mean this as an insult.
No, please.
You
fire
seem
away.
way more comforting in person. Like you look taller on your show. Like, and you have this like very like.
I'm 6'1". What are you talking about?
I don't. When I saw
small
you
to
walk
you.
in, when I saw you walk in, I don't know. Maybe you just look like a giant on your show.
Well, thank you.
But yeah.
I don't know how to take that, but I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah. So I really want to make sure that we get our definitions correct first.
Yes.
When you say that wokeism equals fascism, would you say that's like the claim diluted into like a small segment?
Let me explain what I mean by that. Okay, and I've talked about this a lot in my book, Woke is Dead. And again, just to remind you, I come at this as a pissed off liberal who has nothing in common with the woke left and wants the woke left to actually come back to a more commonsensical, electable position, actually. And here's what I think about what wokeism became. It began in the 60s in Black American music. In its origin, a great thing. It was about raising awareness for social and racial injustice. By that criteria, I'm happy to say I'm woke. But that's not what's happened in the last few years. In the last few years, for a combination of reasons, one of which the pandemic sent everybody nuts. Everyone was at home drinking too much on the internet, firing.
Sorry, I got mind fucked by that. But I think he's right. I don't know if it was necessarily music per se, but I think wasn't the first concept of like being woke related, I think, to like racial issues. I think that might be true. I think so.
Off all their ridiculous views and just got into rabbit holes and so on. But we can leave that. But wokeism is supposed to be a celebration. I would think, agree.
Yeah.
Hang on.
So
Supposed to be
Piers,
hang
you're
on.
the person to say, can I talk a little bit on my 3 minutes I get before I'm voted out?
Hang on there, mate. Hang on
Do you
there.
agree that it's supposed to be about liberalism, about being a liberal?
I would say that the idea of wokeism is kind of an evolution from a bunch of different terms that have been used to
But
throw
at
at the
its
left
heart, should it be
specifically.
a
So
celebration
like
of
before
liberalism?
wokeism, it was critical race theory. Before critical race theory, it was social justice.
Right.
There's a lot that the right specifically, and I
Would
know
you
you say
agree-
that you're not the right,
does it celebrate-
but it's a
does it
reactionary
celebrate
it's a
liberalism?
reactionary response towards the elevation of certain groups that has historically been silenced.
But does it celebrate liberalism?
I don't think so. I don't think it has to. I think
the
a
reason
lot of it
I'm
also
asking-
has to talk about
the reason
class
I-
solidarity,
let me
which
give it-
typically is
Let me give you a
illiberal.
little Latin lesson. Because the Latin was liber, meaning free, and also the root of liberty, meaning the quality or state of being free, and liberalis, meaning courteous, generous, gentlemanly.
I love these definitions.
Wait a minute.
Can you describe?
You asked for a definition.
Can you describe
I'm giving you
fascism?
one.
That's
Yes.
really what I want to talk about.
I know what fascism is.
Wait, what is it then? Because enlighten me.
Can I finish telling you what liberalism is?
No, I know what liberalism is.
Well, you don't think you do.
Yeah,
Because
it
if you're a
is.
woke left, they don't understand what being a liberal actually
no.
means.
What being-
I do.
what being a
I
liberal-
do. So let me explain to you. The definition of a liberal includes one who is open-minded or not strict in the observance of orthodox, traditional, or established forms or ways, a person who's willing to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own, favorable to or respectful of individual rights and freedoms, and concerned with broadening general knowledge and experience. Now, what part of that do you think the woke left have adhered to in the last 5 years?
But I need to know, why is it fascism?
I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
So the woke left have basically said, we hate fascists, we hate Nazis. In fact, we think everyone we don't agree with is a fascist and a Nazi. Led by Donald Trump,
an insane
led by everyone who
generalization.
voted for Trump, led by Charlie Kirk, led by all these people.
Can I tell you what
Wait,
I
let me
represent?
finish my point, then you can respond. That they're all a bunch of fascists, they're all a bunch of Nazis. And I kept warning the woke left, as a pissed off liberal, stop over-demonizing people by using the word Nazi and Hitler and fascist. It is ridiculously self-harming to yourselves, and it leads actually to young deranged minds like the assassin of Charlie Kirk to actually put anti-fascism slogans on their bullets and to murder people for their speech, right? So wokeism, in the end, in the last few years, transformed from what was supposed to be a celebration of liberalism in many ways into a form of fascism. Why do I say that? Because it conditioned people that you either adhere to our narrow worldview, and if you don't, we're going to shame you, vilify you,
Look, all the
destroy
flags are up.
you.
I didn't even get to
We're
talk,
gonna-
Piers.
we're gonna-
Let me talk.
I'm going to let you respond.
I'm gonna lose my time.
Cancel you, or in some circumstances, we're going to kill you for your free speech and opinions.
Okay.
And that is where it became, in my opinion, a very dangerous,
But it just sounds like
very
you're-
deluded
it sounds like you're trying
form
to-
of fascism.
it sounds like you're
which
trying
is
to-
ironic because woke people say they hate the fascists.
It sounds like you're trying to correlate fascism with authoritarianism, which is control of speech or control of how people interact or control of behavior.
Fascists do control speech.
Right, that can be a part of it, is the
And they do
authoritarianism.
kill you for your
But the
views.
specific part of fascism is specifically trying to preserve a hierarchy based on either shared ethnicity or shared culture. That is the idea of elevating
But the
one
woke
specific
left are their own
group
culture.
into the top. No,
Yes, you are.
So you're telling me that Hitler would have been wearing a BLM shirt, or Hitler would have been
No,
wearing
of
an
course he
anti, because wokeism is not fascism. Fascism is specifically dealing with one particular
woke-
group.
but-
They're elevating to the
but
top of the
people
hierarchy.
who identify
That's what we
as
saw.
woke
That's what we
behave-
saw in fascist
they
Italy.
behave
That's what we saw in
like-
Nazi
but they
Germany.
behave
That's
like
what we saw
fascists.
in Imperial Japan.
But Mason, do you
none of that correlates with the elevation of particular groups that have historically been silenced, which is the idea of what progressivism is.
I hear you.
I reject the idea of wokeness just because wokeness, again, is used as that insult that is
think,
elevated
honestly,
from different insults that have been thrown in the past.
Respectfully, I think wokeism has become one of the worst scourges in the world.
Yeah,
Oh
because I
my
think that there's been a
God,
successful
worst in the
campaign
world.
to basically
No,
attach
In the
Let's buy the woke
world.
left.
no, it has been to attach all of these pejoratives.
So if you were to timeline this out, it doesn't even make sense. Like, I think most people agree that like peak woke was like around like 2013. That's when we hit like the peak of like the crazy language policing and everything else. And then it's kind of like we peaked for a while and then we've kind of been like sliding off. Maybe when it comes to like censorship, people might say that the peak of that was maybe like 2020 under Trump, by the way, because of the whole COVID stuff and the vaccines and everything. But like if we look at the elections, right? Like if we say peak woke was 2013 or 2020, well, Trump won in 2016, but then Biden won in 2020. And woke has only gotten less from 2020 to 2024. There's no way that any honest actor would say we were more woke in 2024 than in 2020. Well, but then Biden lost that election and then Trump won again. So it can't possibly be that wokeism is like the greatest scourge and that's what's driving all the voters and everything. Because if that was the case, this isn't even like a serious conversation.
To a idea of emancipation from silenced groups. That's the idea. The
There's
idea
nothing
that
silent about
yes,
the
the
woke
idea
left.
that we should bring
You never
people to the
stop
table.
yapping,
That
any of you.
No,
Ever. You never stop
That's why I hear
howling.
so much about cancel culture, about how
you
everybody's
know
getting
the best-
canceled
the
when they're
best-
millionaires with podcasts that talk about this shit every day.
The best quote I have in my book, Woke is Dead, and clearly it's still slightly alive here, but the best quote, I had an Australian woman come up to me in the streets in London, and she said, Mr. Morgan, do you mind if I just say something about these wokies? I went, sure. She said, they just want to suck all the joy out of life. And I went, God, you're so right. That's exactly what they do.
What is
You
the
are
joy that you're sucking
collectively-
out?
You are
Stopping
collectively-
saying slurs
you
is
are-
sucking out the joy
no,
of life?
You are
You wanna say slurs that bad?
I don't want to say slurs.
Well,
but you are-
that's like
but you are collectively the most joyless group of people to ever walk
I'm pretty
on God's
joyful.
earth.
I'm smiling.
And I-
Like compared to, I mean, like you can point to like wokies do suck the joy out of a lot of stuff, sure. But are we going to pretend like Christians, the people who are against premarital sex, have banned abortion and sometimes won't even let you watch Harry Potter because they think it's the devil? These people don't suck the fun out of everything? Like, come on.
My
I came in
advice-
cracking jokes.
My
Piers.
advice is,
I can get a beer with
my
you.
advice for all of you is
I think
like,
you need to relax a little
just
bit.
collectively, a bit of, I know you love a bit of Zen. Zen, calm down, take a chill pill, right? See the funny side
Like,
of life.
take a chill pill. I was told we were getting trans for everyone. I don't see anybody getting transed around me, okay? But somehow they've managed to ban like watching porn without having the government photograph your and doing a print in order to okay the fact that you're masturbating to some porn website. And in half the states you can't even have abortions anymore. Like, who are the ones enforcing their will on the American population?
Pretty chill.
Respect other people's opinions. Respect my right to have different opinions.
I think
to
that
you.
you've dressed this like nightmare scenario around you, and then
It
you
is
start
a
cowering.
nightmare.
No, then you start cowering at the own demons that you set up.
True.
It's funny that
True.
like, are
You
the
see me
Wokies
cowering?
are the
Am I
Wokies
cowering in this room?
You're saying they're the
I've
joyless
come and sat in
people.
the middle of 20
They-
hardcore.
They are
woke
joyless.
lefties.
They're ruining the joy of
Am I
life.
cowering?
They're sucking out the
Woo!
happiness. They're sucking out
The
the
Wokies
happiness
are
of
around me.
society. That's the idea.
I don't
you're
cower.
saying, yeah, you're saying the happiness is being sucked out by woke people.
I think you're just a joyless bunch. You should lighten up a bit.
That's an insane
Place
overgeneralization.
another
That's how I
image.
feel about British people. But
Oh, got him. No, that
Hello.
should have been a Vine boom.
I am.
You're Piers.
I am Piers.
I do
Oh,
want to
hey.
kind of touch on the last thing that you and Mason talked about. I think the
I feel like we know like 90% of the people in the circle here. Jesus.
idea that the woke left is just this soulless, joyless majority of the left, at least now is what you seem to be making it out to
I
be.
don't think it's the majority. It's the noisy part of the left.
Okay. I actually
Oh,
think I can
well.
agree with you there. I think it's a loud minority of what you're calling the woke left. I think what really wokeness comes back to is that idea of fighting for equality, speaking up for people who don't have a voice themselves, and advocating on their behalf for their rights. And I think that you don't.
Do you identify as a woman?
No, but I think that's
What do
tangential.
you identify as?
Oh no.
That's tangential to this conversation.
No, it's actually very relevant what I'm about to say.
No,
So-
I don't think my identity is
What do you
relevant.
identify
What if I
as?
started bringing up the fact that you're British and you're here talking to a bunch of Americans in America?
Great.
That would be completely irrelevant to this whole
It's
point.
very relevant.
We're talking about American
In fact, the last guy to
politics
sit
now.
at this desk used British as a slur against me. So, yes.
I mean,
absolutely fine. But I've risen
might have been
above-
justified.
I haven't run to my therapist. I've risen above the
No,
slur.
that's great. I'm
not
glad
going to
you
report him
seem
to.
very mentally
I'm not going to
fortified,
report
sure.
him to the authorities for using a racial slur. I've moved on.
That's great, but I
My
just don't
point in
think
asking you what you identify is that you're talking about equality. The wokeism is aligned to equality. And yet, where does that equality apply if, for example, and we've touched on this already, if you are a woman athlete in sport, where's the equality in having a biological man compete against you when they have a physical advantage?
Okay, look, I think, well, that kind of strays away from
Do you
what
think
I was
that's
getting
equal?
at. Do I think it's equal for men and women to play in sports if there's an advantage that's like far above a threshold?
Yes.
No, I don't think that
And you
that's
understand
equal.
that's why we
But I
separate the
think that-
sexes in sport, because men have a physical advantage.
To an extent, we
Not
do.
to an extent,
So,
they
like,
just- they just do.
Okay, then answer the question about archery. What do you think about archery? Do you think that has to be a segregated
I've
sport?
read a report, and correct me, someone I'm sure will correct me on the internet. I read a report that if it was a gender-neutral Olympics, women may end up with 2 bronze medals in the entire Olympics.
Wait, okay,
right?
so- but I think the point-
You
hold
say,
on,
wait,
hold on, wait,
two
I think-
medals
I think the
in the
point-
entire Olympic Games. In other words, it would be the
Look, I'm not
destruction.
advocating for
No, I'm just saying it would
completely
be the
gender-neutral
the
sports.
destruction of women's sport. That's why we separate the sexes, and that's why the issue matters.
Oh
Sorry, lovely
my
to meet you.
God. They wrecked our time. Holy.
Excellent, nice suit.
Great to meet
Okay,
you, sir.
Jesus.
Nick,
Nick, nice to meet you.
So look, the prompt was about the equivalency between wokeism and fascism. The key difference.
Well, to be clear, the prompt actually, my real point is, if you want to brand everybody fascist, you can't behave like fascists yourself.
But the key difference is fascism uses the power of the state to
So-
impose their
so
opinions.
does the woke left.
Wokeism does not.
Oh, it does. When
Was
you-
anybody deported for being woke
When
during
you-
the Biden
no, no.
administration?
Here's my answer.
Does anybody get rounded up in the
Uh-oh.
streets for their opinion? Did anybody get canceled because the FCC said you're being too woke?
Can
no,
can I
that
answer?
doesn't happen.
Can I answer?
Of course.
Of course. Actually, the woke left have deployed the power of the state many times. Look at the pandemic. Look at the pandemic.
How is that wokeism?
I'll tell you how it's
Wait,
wokeism.
so diseases are woke now?
No, wokeism is where you take things which are not actually science-based, for example, the efficacy of masks, right? And by the way, I feel guilty of this myself.
Masks were wokeism? Come on. Oh my God, this is so cringe, dude.
I'm not saying I'm whiter than white about
So
this.
masks are woke.
No, they can be. The woke mentality. I'll explain why. When a government says that if you're seen without a mask during a pandemic, you can be fined or punished.
Pierce, you're way
Wait a
too
minute,
smart to
wait
believe this.
Wait a minute. I'm giving you the argument which I ended up accepting, right? Which is in a fast-moving pandemic, when the scientific advice changes so rapidly, I fell victim to this myself. I was very censorious of people. But you can't deny that the state had a mindset of you will conform or we will punish you. And it turned out they were making
That's
people...
simply
they were
not
making,
true.
It is true.
You may have felt
They were
uncomfortable
they
being
were
unmasked in public because people would say, hey, be
I didn't.
courteous of other people.
I didn't.
Nobody got fired.
I didn't.
Nobody lost their job. Nobody
Actually, people
got
did get
exiled.
fired.
That's
They
not
did
true.
lose their job.
People
all
did
that
get
stuff got
fired from
overturned.
certain...
No, they
because
did.
we are a nation
Oh,
of law.
no.
People did get fired.
People did get fired from their private workplaces. Now, the government, I think through OSHA, I think Biden tried to do like some mandatory thing, but it got shut down by the courts. But there were private companies that did fire people based on their willingness or unwillingness to mask up. Although, I mean, like, these were like hospitals and shit. Oh, and I think there was was it the New York City Police Department? There was a big police department that did too, and people got hella ass paint over that as well.
They all lost their jobs for not wearing a mask. They were told they couldn't come to work.
Not all
Who?
of them.
Thousands of people.
Thousands?
Okay, so
And,
now
well,
these nebulous
clear.
people lost their
Nick,
job.
to be clear, you don't think anybody lost their job in the pandemic for refusing to wear a mask or refusing to be vaccinated?
I think that people who are
They
in
were
public-facing
state-authorized
situations where they
mandated
could have
people.
easily taken a scientifically proven preemptive
It wasn't
measure.
proven.
Yes, it was.
No, it turned out not to be proven. That's my point.
Oh, no.
And yet the state, driven by a left-wing Democrat president.
So
put
me
it
telling
to
you
do it.
that you are spreading misinformation, that is not fascism. That is just me telling you you're wrong.
No, you're not telling me I'm wrong because I'm right.
Okay, no, you're just not. And we're not going to relitigate COVID. That's now years ago at this point. The key point is it fascism? It is not fascism. You gave your very long definition of liberalism. Wokeism is about everything on that list that you described as being
Really?
liberal.
Really?
It's about standing up for other perspectives.
think
it's
it's
about
about-
listening to other people that have not traditionally been listened to.
Oh, you don't listen to anybody.
Yes,
what are you
we
talking
do.
about? Of course you don't.
You said yourself, wokeism started about just acknowledging social problems. I think it's woke
That's
that
originally-
middle America's
yes.
jobs have been shipped overseas. That's woke to
Yep.
recognize that there's larger social problems.
I don't dispute-
Police brutality,
listen.
recognizing that there's a problem with the institution of policing. That's woke. It's not fascist.
Would you defund the police?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, well that's woke.
Not defunding the police is woke?
Calling for the police to be defunded is one of the worst things the woke, including Mamdani
Okay,
in New
this
York.
is like-
The new mayor of New York
your-
City called for the
Your first
called
prompt
for the
was toxic
NYPD to be
masculinity has
defunded.
always meant one thing. Now you're saying woke used to mean one thing, but now it means a different
Yes.
thing. So words only have one definition when they suit you.
No.
But when they don't suit you, they change and they can fluctuate.
Obviously, you said that wokeism is a form of liberalism, right? You said that.
Yes.
Everything I read.
Wokeism is a form of
and yet, just to
liberalism.
remind you,
Absolutely.
a person who is willing to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own. The woke left famously, I would say infamously, never accept anybody objecting to anything they say.
We
You as a
confront bad
collective-
speech with better speech.
You confront bad speech with better speech. No, you don't.
Like denying the
What-
efficacy of vaccines, and I'm telling you that's wrong.
No, I
I'm
disagree.
not saying you should be canceled or you should be in prison for that.
Actually, do you want my honest view?
Actually.
I do not think the efficacy of masks was ever proven. In fact, I think most of the evidence now suggests they were pretty pointless. Secondly, on vaccines, I think they saved millions of lives, but I do think it was completely misleading of the government here and the government in the UK and other countries when they stated to the side.
Firstly, hold on, wait a second. I'm sorry. Has it been proven that wearing masks don't help at all in protecting from disease? Did I miss that? I thought that they just maybe either overstated the efficacy of it, or I thought initially the anger was that Fauci said masks wouldn't help because they were trying to save it for the medical professionals, but then they were like, oh no, they do help, and Fauci lied to us. I thought that was the big claim about Fauci. I guess I would have to say, but I thought masking and social distancing together were proven to have like a decent to like cut infection rates like decently. I don't remember. It wasn't 100%. He's about to bring up they lied when they told us the vaccine will prevent all infections, which again was never true, but they mattered way less with the later variants. Yeah, once you got to the Omicron, I was going to say Omega, but the Omicron one, I think that motherfucker got everybody sick. I don't know if anything mattered at that point, but
Think it was completely misleading of the government here and the government in the UK and other countries when they stated as a scientific fact that if you had the vaccine, you couldn't transmit the virus.
The measure was whether the healthcare system
That's a
would be
fucking
overwhelmed.
lie. That's a
The healthcare
lie.
system
That's
did
a
not
lie.
collapse
That's a
like that.
lie.
That was all it was
I'm
supposed
making
to
the
be.
point.
Wasn't that no one would ever get sick
I'm making
ever.
the point that when you issue government mandates and it turns out you were wrong, for example, when they said you cannot transmit the virus
That's a
if you have the
lie.
vaccine, it turned out that wasn't true.
nobody said this.
I do accept that.
So there were lots of things they said
my
which turned out
God,
to be
these
wrong.
lies
I would
still
rather err on
are
the side
so
of caution
pervasive.
with a disease that killed millions of people around the world. That's just me.
Hey, Nick, as I did, and in fact, I was very censorious to people who took the position I'm now taking
Again, it's
against
not
you.
being censorious.
But I
We're
thought-
having this debate in
No,
a
but-
public
but
forum.
one
I'm
of-
not saying you're not allowed to speak
No,
about this.
I'm not making
I'm
that
just
point.
going to tell you you're wrong.
I'm making the point that I was wrong at the time about those particular parts of it. We can agree that the vaccines broadly, I think, worked. But we can also agree the scientists got it wrong about masks. They got it wrong about the efficacy of transmission with vaccines. These are the things we should be able to come together on.
Hey, this is
And that's
great.
to me, right? Really good to see you. My next surrounding claim is that gender-neutral pronouns are pointless.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm Jeremiah. Okay, so I bet you didn't know that you were coming to a therapy session. I am a therapist. and
Great.
so- yes,
Finally,
finally.
finally.
But
a
I'm
missing link in my life.
Yes. So I would argue that pronouns, people being wanting to be referred to the pronouns that they want, actually aid them in their self-esteem improving and their validation and affirmation in life.
Then their lives obviously are lacking a lot of other things. It's like nobody cares about pronouns.
What would their life be lacking?
What pronouns are yours?
I'm he, him.
Okay, so you're a bloke.
Yes.
Okay, why do you need to call yourself he, him? I know what you are. You're a man.
Right, but I think that you're talking about people that
Do you
want to be
feel
called.
do you feel
Wait,
affirmed by the fact you call me he, him?
I'm talking about other pronouns, so like they, them, z.
Well, they,
right?
them. All right, they, them.
Yes.
There's one person
Well,
saying, call me they, them.
Okay, well,
they, them is a plural.
Right,
How
but-
can you be more than
so
one
guess
person?
what? What about someone
I mean, call me stupid,
but someone that's non-binary who can engender.
What does
two
non-binary
pronouns.
mean?
I'm explaining it right now. Who can engender both masculine and feminine traits, and that is their third gender. If that's what they want to be called, why is it so hard for you and other people to call them what they want to be
I
called?
just think it's all bullshit.
But I'm asking you, why can't you just call them what they want to be called
No,
if that's what they want to be
because I
called?
don't want to.
So how are you being empathic if you don't want to call them what they want to be
I don't
called?
care.
But so
I think
empathy.
again-
Empathy is a muscle that you could develop in therapy. So if you went to therapy, you'd have developed that
I
muscle.
can't think of anything I'd rather less develop.
Well,
When one human being says to me, call me they, them, I laugh. It's absurd. There's one of them.
And that shows that you're not empathic.
I asked a non-binary person who was a guest on my show recently, what does non-binary mean? She couldn't explain it.
Okay, so
it was actually torturous.
So that's her, but the thing is, why don't you get someone on your show who can explain
How many pronouns are there?
Multiple.
How many?
I don't know. I'm not an expert in
The
that.
last count is there are 74 official ones. Do you know?
No, okay, you're gonna say cat and dog. I'm a cat. I'm a dog.
No.
There's he,
I'll come
him,
to those.
she,
No.
they, them.
I'm
Probably kind
talking
of
about,
those.
talking about gender pronouns.
Yes,
Right?
so am I.
There are 74. One of them is astral gender and affinity with space.
No, where are you getting this information?
Official genders. Google it. Literally, Google it.
Have you had someone on your show who said, I'm an astral whatever?
Yes, I actually got one on.
No, and did you pay that person to go on? Like, I mean,
utter lunacy, the whole thing. It's like kids identifying as cats at school.
no,
You know what I would
that
do with
does
them?
not happen.
It
That
does
is-
happen.
That is some bogus like media presentation. That does not happen.
No, it has happened. Read my book, Woke is Dead. It's all in there.
I don't know.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Jesus.
What are you sighing about?
I gotta turn all this on now just to make Putin happy. Oh, just to make. Oh, Moody. Oh.
Thank you.
Is it working?
Yep. Play the video.
There was a phenomenon called the furries. You know what it
Yeah, I hear it. Thank you.
Not the phenomenon called the furries.
was? Kids would go to school
So
and say,
I know what
"I'm
furries are,
identifying
and
as a
furries
cat."
are not a gender. That's
I'm a cat.
its own kind of lifestyle. It's like people in outfits.
But this is where, with all due respect, this is where limitless self-identity takes you. It takes you to the absurd. For example, do you believe? Let me ask you.
Okay, go.
Do you believe that you can identify as anything you like?
No.
Oh, what are the exceptions?
I think that most people that when they think about their gender identity, it's he, him, she, her, they, Z. Those are the ones that
What's
people
Z?
are. Z is oh god. No, I can't explain it. No, but Z.
You know
Oh
idea.
no! Why would you do this?
This is their
Baloney.
strongest
What's Z? I
warrior?
have no idea.
I know.
And you're the guy trying to defend this nonsense. Here's my other question for you, right?
I
So
think we're out
it used to be LGBT, then it was LGBTQ. What is it now? What's the
It's LGBTQ plus, or it could be LGBTQIA2S, two spirit.
Right, and what does it stand for?
Two spirit.
No, the whole thing.
That's a
No,
Canadian
no,
thing,
no, no.
yeah.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, LGBT, trans, queer, or questioning, LGBTQIA, intersex, asexual, two-spirit. It's the two-spirited individuals.
You forgot pansexual and asexual.
Well, so pan. I did say asexual. Pan is not in there. Nice to meet you.
They got cooked.
Not my my therapist.
What's your name?
I'm Jenny.
Jenny, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So we wanted to talk about, I guess your initial claim is that pronouns are silly or
I
purposeless.
think we've just established how silly they are. I mean, even the people defending them can't remember what they mean.
Right. So I just wanted to touch on two things here. So I don't think anyone is denying biological sex assignment at birth, right? Whatever your doctor determines your...
It's not about doctors assigning anything, is it? You're either born with certain genitals or you're not.
Right, but a doctor has to look at
When
it.
you're a
to
male or
determine
female.
that. Right, understanding.
Do you accept
So,
that?
yeah, I
This
do
whole-
think
what
that
does-
we've got
this
two
whole phrase,
sexes.
assigned at birth, what does it mean?
That means a doctor has looked at you as
No,
a baby
they look at you and
they...
they just say, well, I look at you and see. I don't have to be a doctor to know what you're assigned as.
Right, but okay,
You're just
so-
born. Do you accept that the vast majority of people ever in the history of planet Earth are born male or female?
Yeah, I do believe
But
that
can
there
we stop
is
the phrase
some...
assigned at birth by a doctor?
That's
Literally,
what a doctor
I've
does,
had 4
though.
basis. They look at them and they go, oh, it's a boy, it's a girl. That's it.
Right, so a
What you
doctor
then decide
determines
to call
that and
yourself,
writes that on your birth
entirely down to you.
certificate.
But there's no one
Okay,
assigning
can I
anything.
finish my point, please?
Yeah, but they're not assigning anything.
Can I
It's a
finish my
ridiculous
point,
phrase.
please?
Feel
Thank
free.
you. So, whatever your biological sex is determined by a doctor upon your birth, I don't think anyone's denying that. However, gender is a construct that is how we express ourselves.
How many genders are there?
For me, I think that it's a scale, and however you want to express yourself is up to you.
Can I
But
express myself as anything I want?
Well, if you let me finish my point. Okay, so for example, we
Oh.
talk about masculinity, we talk about femininity, and some days I feel like I want to feel more feminine, so I wear a dress, or I do things that are socially constructed and designated as feminine. Or maybe other people have like this idea of masculinity, so they present themselves in that way. So gender is different from biological sex in that it's how you express yourself. To me, somebody's gender expression and how they want to be addressed is no different than using somebody's name.
Right.
Because I write, so when we use pronouns, it's with purpose, right?
What are your pronouns?
She, her.
So you're a woman?
Yes.
So why do you need to call yourself she, her?
Well, that's just how you address
Why?
women.
So why use them as pronouns?
But pronouns are just used in English
We never
language.
used to. This has just only started 10 years ago. Nobody ever.
Pronouns has always been used in the
Yes,
English language.
I'm talking about the new cavalcade of extra pronouns.
I think
Other
we're
than-
making it out to
if
be
you're a
so much
woman,
more
you're
than it
a she,
really
her.
is.
If you're a man, you're a he, him. That's it.
Okay.
Right? The rest of it is just a complete construct of the woke left.
Okay,
none
a
of
construct,
it, as
like
we've
you
already
said.
established, none of it makes sense to the point that none of you can even explain half of it.
No, and I'm still explaining it. So
How many genders are there?
I'm still talking about gender
No,
expression.
but can you
and
tell me how many genders there are?
I'm talking about.
How many are there?
I personally don't care. I don't know.
Do you know a number?
No, because for biological sex,
Do
maybe
you
we can
believe,
talk about
do
that
you
in
believe in
binary.
the concept of limitless self-identity?
No. So
So
if you
what's
would
the-
let me,
where's the limit?
If you would let me continue.
Where's the limit?
If you would let me continue. Thank you. So what I'm saying though is that when you refer to somebody and their pronouns that they ask for, it's just general English language how we use it. There are plenty of languages out there that don't even have pronouns because that's just how the language works. So if you can speak a different language and not have to refer to somebody by their pronouns and know exactly who you're talking to, then I don't think pronouns are a big deal.
I hear you, and you phrased it very nicely. But my point being, I think it's got completely out of hand.
Okay.
When there are 74 cited genders, if you Google it as the
74?
official list
Oh,
of genders,
no.
and one of them them is an affinity with space. I'm calling bullshit.
How many genders
When
are
you
there,
have
Stephen?
LGBTQ, and it now has so many letters that
800,000.
even experts in the field of the LGBT community acronym cannot remember
The
what they all
LGBTQI
mean.
experts.
It is ridiculous. And when it comes to limitless self-identity, I had this debate with someone on International Women's Day on my show Uncensored. And I had two guests. One was white, one was black. There's a relevance to that. And we were talking about this. And I said, right, two women. I said, do you believe in limitless self-identity? And the wokey of the two guests said, I do. And you have to respect what people want. And she said, yes. I went, okay, in that case, I, on International Women's Day, Piers Morgan, am now identifying as a black lesbian. And the black panelist burst out laughing because she knew what I was doing, which is taking this argument to its logical conclusion, which is once you make it limitless, society just collapses because anyone can say that they're anything they want.
If I may
and
interject
you would say to me, if I said to you I'm a black lesbian, what would you say?
I would say that you're conflating this idea of limitless, like whatever gender expression, self-identity.
Yeah.
I already said I don't agree with that.
Well, you didn't say where the limit is.
Right. So for me personally, and what I believe is that there are scientific things that we can agree to, like biological sex, right? But gender expression is a cultural
I know,
and
you
societal.
said that, but where is the limit
right.
to what you
So
can
you can't
identify?
identify as another race because that's just genetically not correct,
Right.
right?
So there are limits to this.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm really curious where the woke limit is on self-identity.
Gender is a social construct. A social construct means we made it up, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So,
It's completely
so
invented.
therefore, you can have whatever identity that you want because you've decided to create that.
Yes,
for
but
you.
my point,
But
the
is
point
that
of my...
not- but why is that a problem?
No, here's the problem. It's got so out of control.
No.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Good one.
How are you?
Ryan.
Nice to meet you, Ryan.
Piers. So
Actually, I have my preferred pronouns.
Okay, what are they?
Hot, hotter, hottest.
I can claim that. I can honor that. Yeah.
But throughout the conversation,
Sure.
I
Okay.
can-
All right. Hottie, is that okay?
I prefer hottest.
Hottest? Okay,
Yeah.
well, I
That's what
take
I'm
that
feeling
personal
today.
because I thought I was. So look, I think you do this really great job of taking the far edge use case and writing a book about it. I think what you're trying to do is take this thing that is explicitly a one-dimensional, two-dimensional range, and adding things like this random, star thing, and then your elephants and all that stuff. Nobody who
It's
is
not it's not
serious.
random.
Oh, fine.
These
Fine. I
things
tell you what,
exist.
you're right. If you can Google it, it must be
No,
the mainstream.
if you read my book, you'll see these are specific examples.
No, I got it. No, I understand. You were really good at taking anecdotes and making them data. If that was how science
Not
worked,
data, just facts.
Well,
For example,
fine,
for example, there was a school in the north of England called the Altrincham School for Girls,
Okay.
where everybody there is a girl. That's why they call it Altrincham School for Girls. And then because of the trans activist campaign, eventually they banned teachers and pupils from referring to each other as girls, even though everybody there was a girl.
I think the vast majority of people who care about this at all would say that's an edge case, and most of us think that's weird.
Great.
That's the vast majority.
And
of
I agree
people.
with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So explain to me why you think personal pronouns actually matter.
Well, the question of gender has gone back for thousands of years. There were over 150 distinct civilizations in North America before colonialism that had more than two genders. So this is what we in the real world like to call an
That's
open
okay.
question that evolves
Whatever.
over time. I don't think that the fact that the
don't
question
care.
exists means there's some systemic sickness within society, and I don't understand why the fact that something that maybe you're not that familiar with or is an open question makes you uncomfortable.
My argument is only that it's pointless.
Well,
I mean, what are your pronouns?
He, him.
Right, so everyone I've asked has basically said she, her, he, him.
Yeah.
Well, in my day, it was just male and female, man and woman.
Got it.
So
Well, here's the thing,
we need-
but it's not for us to get. It's not ours to get. That's the
No,
point.
but my point is I shouldn't be compelled to use absurd
You don't. Well,
pronouns.
fine. Listen, whatever you call absurd, fine. Whatever you choose not to
You
say
shouldn't
is
have
fine.
to call me
Here's the
hottest.
thing. You could go around
Even
and
though
call
I say my
listen,
preferred pronoun is
hold on,
hottest.
no.
You
As a
don't
gay
have
man,
to
you
call
could
me
listen.
that.
As a gay man, you could go around calling me and that would be okay. You'd be allowed to do that. You're not going to get arrested. You're not
Whoa.
going to go to prison.
You
You
would
would
be-
be exactly. It would be
Naughty
offensive
word.
and unkind. It would not be okay,
Wait, you're
but
also-
you could do it. What I'm saying is you don't have to accept
Wait a
other
minute,
people's
I didn't say
pronouns.
anything.
Yes, well, you've been saying a lot. I'm referring to things you've said.
You're putting words into
Okay,
my
fine.
mouth.
Correct me.
You should let me say what I think
Okay,
about
go
you.
for it. I can't wait.
I just found your terminology offensive.
Okay.
As object.
Is that all you were going to
No,
say?
obviously, look, we can agree that whether a derogatory terms like that, it's offensive.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right. And so if I find it offensive that you refuse to honor someone's they them pronouns, I'm allowed to be offended by that.
But
You're
why-
allowed to be offensive.
Sure.
That's a thing that can happen out in the world. That
Yes.
doesn't make you right.
No, but we had a crazy phase, which I talk about in the book, where literally companies, big companies, people were getting fired for not using people's pronouns.
I don't think. Look,
You agree that's
hold
insane?
on. Listen, anytime change happens, there are going to be blips
But you
of
agree that was
extremity.
mad? You agree nobody
I
should
don't
be
think anybody
fired?
should get fired. No.
Nobody should be fired. So we
No.
agree. This is
No.
good. It's a good-
Yeah, no, but the vast majority of people think that, Piers. I mean, for the same reason that most of us call ourselves woke, tongue in cheek. Where there's minutia, there's little details, little onto the side cases, and then there's what's common. And what's common is people respect people's pronouns, but it is uncommon for an employer to fire someone for refusing to put them in the
Actually,
email
it's more common than you
signature.
think, and actually became a very insidious part of wokeism.
I mean-
which is what I call the cancel culture. We're going to come to that as a separate question, but this whole idea that if you don't conform to a particular worldview, you have to be
No, look, I
cancelled,
understand that. Look,
fired, shamed, and so on.
there are people on the far extreme of both the left and the right who want to get rid of people who think differently than they do. That's
Yeah.
a both sides.
On both sides, I agree.
But 95% of us are inside of those sides. This is not like a systemic problem with our whole human society. This is a far edge.
What getting him? So Piers isn't fighting on this. That Piers is definitely doing edge cases here. I hope this guy brings this up. What he should bring up is the idea that like you said that this was the most troubling problem, like it was the worst thing in the 21st century or whatever, right? How can that be the case if so few people believe this stuff?
Believe what?
Use
Like
case.
pronouns?
So if
In like the neo pronouns, like all this weird shit.
Okay.
Like this is just generally normal people don't. Yeah.
Nobody goes.
If you want to write a book and you want to go around talking about it like it applies to all of us, I just want to be clear. You're taking a molehill and making a mountain out of it.
Sounds like you pretty well agree with me.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with the principle of some of these things can be extreme. What I disagree with is how you take it and you make it this permanently awful bad thing, black and white, binary, it's bad, and you want to dismiss out of hand anyone that might be close to it.
I think wokeism as a mindset is honestly, I think it's a joyless, hectoring, censoring, virtue signaling.
I mean, look,
I do. And I say that. And like I say, I don't say that because I'm on the right, because I'm not. The right will tell you I'm not one of them. Ask them what they think about things like gun control and abortion and things like that, right?
No, your contrarian thing is a great brand. And I believe it's authentic. I believe it's authentic.
I genuinely sit in the middle on this.
Well, fine. But here's the thing. I want to just be clear that what we're talking about are holding against the whole of society.
Hang on.
I have been a grassroots activist for 15 years. I also do stand-up comedy with all kinds of people. People say things that are offensive all the time, and every once in a while, in all these places, you run into one or maybe two people who are these joyless, joy-sucking, nothing is okay people. But all of us, the vast majority of us who give a shit about any of these things, find those people to be unusual.
But my point,
they get cornered over there, and over there. We don't do, and that's why when you say wokeism is like that, we all go bullshit, Piers, because that's not how we are.
Listen, I agree that all-encompassing, verdicts on a group of people is often a bit misleading. You're clearly not an extreme progressive wokey, right? You're somewhere probably a bit more normal, which is like I said at the start.
That's not what my dad says.
No, but I can see you probably are. You probably got quite a common sense valve in you, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
And that's all I want really is common sense.
Good luck.
Hello.
I feel like they don't have any time to get a good debate going.
She, her.
True.
Right, another one.
But
so actually, oddly, ironically, none of you have anything but the standard old pronouns, which we never needed because everyone knew you were a woman or a man.
Yes, however, my best friend goes by gender-neutral pronouns, and I am an 18-year-old high school
student.
student.
What do you mean by that?
They go by they, them.
They, them, but there's only one of them?
Yes.
Explain that.
They, them can refer to a singular person. Like, I feel like if somebody comes to my house and drops off a package at the door, I say, oh, they left the package there. I'm not like, oh, he left the package there. She left the package there. I say they left the package there, and that's only referring to one person. So I'm an 18-year-old high school student.
Why didn't he counter
and many
that?
of my friends are trans or go by gender-neutral pronouns.
Are they though? Yes. Are they? Because what's happening is quite interesting. Apparently, the number of people. No. The number of people. Well, I'm talking about a group of people. All the reports are suggesting in the last year there's been a dramatic collapse in the number of young people at colleges and universities identifying as trans, which would confirm to me that the thing was a fad, which got completely out of hand. And the people I actually felt sorry for were the people who are genuinely trans. In some cases, go through years of surgery because they feel they're born to the wrong body, the wrong sex, and so on. I feel like they have been lost in all this conversation. They've been made to feel ridiculous. They've been mocked and so on. And I feel badly for those people because actually, a lot of this trans stuff, particularly with young people at colleges, has been a fad. And there was a school near me, near where I grew up in East Sussex in England, where 900 kids in one school were apparently trans.
Yes,
honestly,
I understand.
I feel like you've avoided giving your opinions on non-binary. No, I feel like I've given my opinions on this. I don't think non-binary is a real thing. I'm not buying it. Not on that train.
I understand. However, I think it's about respect, and it's about garnering respect to the people who are, like, you're talking to a person. And if they want to be called they, them by the pronouns
and if I
that
want
they
to be
choose,
called a black lesbian?
Okay, but that gets into a race conversation. That's not
Okay,
what we're talking about.
if I want to be called, let me think of something.
No, we're talking about they, them.
Hang
We're
on.
talking about gender-neutral pronouns. That was the
If I want to be
debate topic.
hot or hottest,
Okay, well, that would be your choice.
would you respect that?
Yes, I would.
So you would call me that?
Yeah, because
Go on
that is
then.
your pronouns.
Well, go on.
And so
Well, go on then.
I feel like...
you
Go
must
on then.
call me
Oi, mate, go on.
But I'm referring to you
Yes.
at the moment.
But address me in my preferred pronoun.
Another thing is
Hang on,
that...
Hang on. Hang on.
Okay, thank you. This could really catch
language
up.
evolves. Language evolves over time.
You see how ridiculous that exchange was?
No.
It's preposterous.
Do you think Piers is a smart guy?
Lovely to meet you.
Smart? Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's an idiot.
Welcome back. Hey, good to see you again.
So I think that like the fixation on this really shows your emotional connection to the idea of pronouns more than like other people's want to self-identify. Because for me, if like I've had people come up to me, I work in a lot of queer spaces in nonprofit work, and I've had people who say they're they them. I misgender them on accident. I call them, if they look very femme presenting, I'll call them she her, and they'll be like, actually it's they them. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I messed up. They're not chastising me. They're not pissed at me. They're not gonna like victimize me afterwards. And that's the majority of people. If there are people that do feel a sense of defensiveness, it's because there's been a propaganda campaign nationally that's been pushed on these people specifically to target and victimize them. So my big thing is, if we want people to be less offensive and less emotional, why are we fixating so much on it? Why are the people that say they hate pronouns so much?
It looks a little bit like Charlie Kirk.
When we get to 74 different ways of identifying your gender,
You
and one of them
see
is
it?
affinity with the stars, you should all accept it's got ridiculous. And my point of saying things like, I identify as a black lesbian or whatever, is simply to show that if you allow things to be limitless, it goes to ridiculous places. We've had that Rachel Dolezal story. Do you remember that was the white woman pretending to be black, right? It was absolutely absurd. And she led this whole life as a fake person. It's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To me, it's fuel.
Like, even I hang out probably in way more, or I've engaged with or intersected with way more of these woke spaces. I don't know how many people I've even met with like neo pronouns or that are non-binary they thems. Like, I feel like even in my area, that's like relatively rare. I feel like you have to go to like the wokest of weirdo young areas to find these people.
It's fueled by a mindset that says anyone can, they use the phrase express themselves, but actually, if your gender identity and you want people to use this, if we get to 74, 80, 100, right, it becomes, as I point out, completely pointless.
Yeah, but if you're someone who feels this like sense that you need to identify as hot and hottest, I'm just gonna call you Piers. Like that's really
exactly
how it is.
my point.
Yeah. So my thing is,
you've answered my.
No,
that's it.
No, exactly, and that's what you can do.
No, you agree.
No, but you're going on a show and you're writing a book specifically highlighting these people. That's the difference. I'm not making a big stink saying this is the degradation of society. I'm saying that this is somebody who's saying something that I don't totally understand. But just because I don't understand it, I can still respect them.
I know.
I don't have to punch down and specifically target them out. That's the difference.
There are a million things more important in life than being concerned about how people call you.
Then don't focus on it, Piers. Why are you writing a book about it? There's millions of things to concern yourself with. Why aren't you talking about a genocide happening in Palestine? Why aren't you talking about actual victims? You're writing a book about people who say astrogender. Something I've never heard before, and I work in queer spaces.
I literally do a show every night where I talk about the wars in Ukraine and Gaza and other major issues.
I'm just talking about this topic.
I'm talking about this because I think it was very interesting to me that Donald Trump got re-elected. I was like, how has this happened? And I think it was partly immigration, it was partly the economy, and it was partly what the Democrats call the culture, and partly the culture wars. Right? A lot of people were fed up with this.
I think it really was a big focus on the economy, and I think you're right there. And I think Trump's version of populism spoke to a lot of people who have been disenfranchised.
Also, the culture war stuff, it did cut through.
It didn't, though.
Yes, it did.
That's not a big.
Anybody on the woke left who will admit it. None of you admit it.
Because if you talk about people's economic conditions, they're not going to give a shit of who their neighbors are and what their pronouns identify as.
Right.
They just want to be able to afford meals for their kids and actually get healthcare.
Exactly. Hence why gender pronouns are
What?
pointless.
What?
What? No, he just made if a certain group of people feel more comfortable, that shouldn't be something we discriminate.
Good one.
My final surrounding claim is that cancel culture is real and a serious threat to free speech. How are you?
Hey, Piers, Tyler.
It's good to meet you, son.
Okay, so I read your book.
Yes, what do you think?
So I liked it. I liked that you gave the movie American Fiction the praise it deserves. But so on page 81, you talk about how you're a liberal who respects free speech. And on that page, you say the Republican Party, and I quote, is ferociously free speech. Yet Donald Trump 2 months ago signed an executive order banning the burning of the American flag. So how does that work?
I don't agree with it.
Yeah, but then how are they ferociously free speech?
I don't agree with it.
Yeah, but no, on your book on page 81, you said they're ferociously
I would say in the last few years, the Republicans have been more pro-free speech than the woke left. That doesn't mean occasionally, as we saw with the Jimmy Kimmel thing, it doesn't mean that occasionally they don't do stuff, which I think is hypocritical, because actually it's not supporting free speech. So I agree with you.
So what executive order did the Democrats pull where they were banning anything to the regard of burning the American flag? I don't think it happened.
I'm talking about, well, I don't agree with it. So
but your book says they're ferociously free speech. It's a contradiction.
They are.
Should we just tear page 81 out of your book then?
No. You can be ferociously free speech and still occasionally do things which are hypocritical.
Okay, like yourself. But
well, where have I been hypocritical?
So
No, don't let him point. Oh, see, like this was a good thing, right? That was a thing. You disagree with it. There's no way to defend it principally, and you either have to not acknowledge the fact, or if you acknowledge the fact, you have to say, okay, fine, I disagree with it. But he's good to focus on it. What did the next question of that is, what did the Democrats do that was similar to this? Don't let him yank you off that. You need to ask that question again. What did the Democrats do that was similar to this? Don't let him yank you from that.
On page 245.
Wow,
I like the book. What can I say?
Are you like one of those weird little mentalists who just remembers every single word of the page?
I'm just a massive Celebrity Apprentice fan, so I need to know how to.
Really?
Oh, you killed Trace Adkins in the end. I really appreciate it.
I actually bumped into him in Beverly Hills recently.
But so on page 245, you talk about how you are against, if you were king for a day, you would ban anybody who participates in cancel culture online.
Yes.
And you would call them out. However, Michael Knowles, I guess you have on all the time, has recently said that he wants to ostracize certain people from society that when they say negative things. He was on this show and said, if you wave the pride flag, you should be in jail for that. That is against the First Amendment, and that is absolutely cancel culture.
Yet
you never call him out on that. No, you've never done it. You have him on the show all the time.
Next time he's on, I will
You
call him out.
You promise me?
You have a bet.
So like right now, though, it just seems to me.
Anyone who watches my show will know I call out everybody.
So you never called Michael Knowles. He's done it multiple times.
You've just pointed that out to me. I will call him out.
It just sounds like you're not.
Michael, if you're watching, I'm going to ask you about that. You better have your
So what has the left done? What has the left done in the past 10 years that has been worse than trying to ban the burning of the American flag?
Yes.
What's the woke left done? Pretty, they're trying to ban everybody and everything.
Trying to is not did it. So then they're not as bad. They try to be as bad, but they haven't risen to the level, right? Also, who is the woke left trying to ban stuff? Are you talking about college kids? What about they can't pass laws?
Legal? Name one example. That's just an example.
One example.
So yeah, but what legislation they put forward? Nothing.
No, but here's the big question about you.
Oh! He just needs to repeat this over and over and over again until he gets voted out. That's it. Look, this is what I want my whole Dinesh D'Souza debate to be, and this is what I'm looking for, okay? So you have a factual disagreement where the facts aren't always acknowledged by the other side, so you force the acknowledgement of the facts, okay? Here is the facts, right? Principally, we agree this is bad. You have to, we do. And then the third step is the comparison of what did the other side do that's as bad as this thing that they did, right? That's I just want to find like 5 or 6, and I'm willing to go a little bit longer, but I just want to find like 5 or 6 of these things to hammer somebody on this. So like for the Mar-a-Lago stuff, right? Like Donald Trump stole shit from the White House. He hid it in Mar-a-Lago, lied to it about the FBI, obstructed the investigation multiple times looking into it. Okay, we agree this is bad. Nobody knows the fact pattern. We agree the fact pattern is bad, right? And then, right, so we agree. Okay, if they want to argue the facts, I'll argue all the facts on this, right? But then the next thing is like, well, what did the Democrats do that's the equivalent to this? And then there's like a two-parter, either They just say, okay, fine, they haven't done anything. Or if they want to bring up another story, then we can run down the facts of this. Well, what about when Biden? Biden didn't intentionally withhold this. The Her report didn't say this. That's not true. This is bad. The Democrats have done nothing even remotely as bad, right? I want to find like 5 of these topics. I think that this is like the best way to argue down these people in finding points like this. I think that Russian Tower meetings are going to be like, yeah, this was perfect. Please don't let them yank you away from this. Just repeat the same question over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Name one example. That's just
not
an example.
flag.
So yeah, but what legislation they put forward? Nothing.
No, but here's the big question about you.
What's more being cancelled than being put in prison?
Well, okay, let me give an example. I'll give an example.
Yeah.
Graham Linehan.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not bringing it back because I want to talk about his issue. He's a comedian who did Father Ted. Obviously, his issue is singular. It's the trans issue. We've debated that.
Yes.
However, the principle of a comedian posting jokes which people may find offensive on social media, as he did back in April, about the trans issue, then being met by 5 armed police officers at Heathrow Airport in London and arrested and taken off. And a very interesting thing happened, which is why I say woke is dead as an ideology. Because 2-3 years ago, that would have been supported by everybody in the woke left. Yeah, bang him up. Absolutely disgusting. How dare he? He's transphobic.
First of all, British shit. Don't care. What? This is British shit. Fuck the bongers. Also, by the way, now from what I've seen, I actually don't. I don't care. Or wait, what should I say? I don't agree. I think with the British hate speech law stuff. I think it's kind of cringe. Okay, just as my inner American. Okay? I don't agree with it, and I'm not going to defend those laws. However, I feel like most of the time when people bring these things up, when you dig into the facts end up being a little bit different. So I saw something really surprising a few days ago where it was like a woman said to another woman, I think in a text message, she used like the F word, the F slur or whatever, to refer to an ex or something.
Cigarette.
Yeah, the one, yeah. She said this, and apparently because she said that in a text message to her girlfriend, to another girl, she got like a fine or something for this. And I was like, this seems crazy. Like, had the British police were monitoring her messages or something like that. And I tried to find the source of this story, and a lot of it is just tabloid shit. But it looked like, and it was hard to find a source for this, it looked like at the end of the day, what actually happened was the woman was harassing the other woman and like spamming her with text messages. And the only reason the cops even knew about it is because that woman reported her friend. And then part of it was, oh, well, you're harassing them, and you also used like a homophobic slur. So like, this is what you're getting in trouble with. So it wasn't just the fact that she used, the F word or whatever in a text message. It was like a harassment thing, and then that was just like a aggravating factor. So I'm just saying that when people bring these examples up, now I'm not saying it was the case in this British comedian one. And also I think I have seen where like if you say a slur online in the bonger line, you can just get in trouble for that, which I think is crazy cringe. But oftentimes there's more to the story than these people are actually presenting. Yeah.
He's horrible. We know this because of the way that, we know from the way that J.K. Rowling was treated, right? Doing the same stuff about the trans issue. She was given death threats, she was threatened with this, that, and the other. But a different thing happened this time. This time, there was such a public outcry, including from many on the left, actually, to be fair to them, that this had crossed the line. We've got to stop doing this for stupid posts on social media. Hundreds of people on social media in the last 2 years in Britain have been arrested. It's completely ridiculous.
Can I respond?
Well, let me finish. So actually, the police not only said we're not going to prosecute him, but we're not going to prosecute anybody for this kind of offence going forward. That's a big win.
So
and a repudiation of cancel culture.
All you've told me is the left has progressed in their position on free speech, but the right has regressed. That's all you've said.
I'm not here to defend the right's position. I think
but I'm saying if you're going to write a book, it's trying to defend free speech. You should focus on where it's actually being attacked. But you wasted your time talking about this left boogeyman that does not exist. I agree with you. True. I love free speech. I am against all that stuff. I'm wearing the poppy today because of Remembrance Day, and we fought for free speech. And the right now is attacking it. And you have a huge platform, and you can take this time to actually defend free speech, but you're not.
I always defend free speech.
Okay, so then why don't you put more focus on the right then? So let me give you an example. You actually agree with you actually agree with my argument. On page 241 of your book, guys, I'll quote it again. You attack Bob Chapek because he denounced Ron DeSantis for putting in like anti-gay laws, to put it quotely. But you said he should be attacking people like Xi Jinping because he does way more human rights violations. Yeah. But that applies here. Trump and the right do way more than left. You said that in your own book, but right now you're contradicting yourself again.
I think both sides are capable of rank hypocrisy.
Who's worse?
I actually think, on balance, over the last 5 years, the woke left have been more suppressive of free speech.
Really?
How?
Yes.
Ask for examples again.
Okay. But you take like 15 minutes to give an example, maybe 14 minutes.
We can stop talking.
That's true.
All right?
No!
That was good.
That was good, though.
I like
You wrecked him. This guy wrecked him. Apparently, this guy's in chat. He's a DJ. Good job. You wrecked him.
Good to meet you. Good to see you.
My name's Dash. Piers standing off against the liberals. This is really something.
Well, I am a liberal.
Your thoughts and beliefs in private, I would assume, more aligned with ours, but I understand getting that bag.
Well,
so
I don't know.
I'll save you the trouble. I'll do it for you.
Okay.
Piers Morgan's new book, Woke is Dead, is out now. It's great.
Thank you.
I also read it.
That's great. Thank you very
I want
much.
to take that off your shoulders.
Thank you.
But let's get into
Did
it.
you
So
read
I'm
his
just
book?
curious, someone who doesn't have any kind of relationship with accountability, would you agree that everything comes across to them as cancel culture?
No, I don't believe that speech comes without accountability.
Okay.
But I do believe we had a frenzied atmosphere in the last few years, driven predominantly by the woke left, of cancelling anybody that didn't sign up to their worldview, which I thought was very insidious. I called it out while it was happening. I've called it out since. I've now written a book about it all, saying we cannot go back there. It doesn't mean that the right aren't capable of doing similar stuff and being hypocrites. They are. But it also means that if you look at it in totality, I think this cancel culture mentality has been really damaging. And I think the war on free speech has been really damaging. damaging.
Okay, well, let's put this on a spectrum, because I think we use this term cancel culture, and everybody's been canceled by the left. I don't have any actual evidence of what you're talking about. So let's say accountability is on this side, which is you facing consequences for your actions. And on this side of the spectrum, it is facing consequences for something that is not justified.
Let me give an example.
So now let's start to place it in that spectrum.
Let me give you a specific example.
Because the people you carry water for on the right tend to be over here, where they don't take accountability for anything and instead feel like they're being canceled, although it's just consequences for your basic actions.
Do you ever watch my show?
I do.
And you really think I carry water for the right?
Absolutely. Really? Yes. There's a statistic that you defend Republicans more than anybody else.
No, I don't. I just attack the woke left more than anybody else.
Okay.
But it's friendly fire. I come at you as one of your own. Okay. Only I didn't go mad.
I appreciate you admitting
I didn't go mad.
God.
Right? I didn't go mad woke bonkers. I stayed old-fashioned liberal with liberal values, wanting free speech at the cornerstone of it. Let me give an example.
Piers, I read your book. That's not the case. You spent most of the book with Trump's cock in your mouth.
If you read,
sorry, you spent most of the book with Trump sucking him off.
No, I didn't.
Yes, the prologue was the Dawn Rises, D-O-N.
The prologue, actually, if you read it, I don't think you did. You just revealed you probably haven't. The prologue actually starts with two conversations I have with him. One positive and one extremely negative, which ends up with him saying, Piers Morgan's so dead, he's catching flies.
Right.
I'm not sure you've read the book, have you?
I have read the book.
Then you wouldn't say that I bleep.
No, because that was you meeting him at Mar-a-Lago trying to win favor back because he was becoming the presumptive nominee, so you needed to get back onto his side.
Yes, but look.
After spending years being a critic of his, then you needed to win favor back.
I've never spent years as a critic of Trump. I've known Donald Trump nearly 20 years. He's been a politician for the last 10 years of that period. In that time, for example, I used to write columns for the Daily Mail in America. I calculated after his first term in office, I wrote about 120 columns about Trump. You can go and check it. And about half were negative and half were positive. I do think in Trump's first term, if people had been fair to give him credit where he deserved it and criticized him when he deserved it, everyone would have been a lot better off. I feel it now. The Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing, and it's honestly,
I wear that badge proudly.
I know, but it's kind of pathetic. It's like when I hear people say, he's the new Hitler. Really? Hitler murdered 12 million people, including 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. You think Donald Trump is the new Hitler? You're a fucking idiot.
Okay,
right,
we're going to talk about hyperbole. Here we have focused half of the discussion today on trans issues, but we're not going to talk about things like, I don't know, Trump is in the Epstein files and he's using the government to cover it up. Should we talk about that?
Sure.
That affects a lot of people. How about him denying the 2020 election and eroding the public's trust in our institutions and processes? That affects everybody. Okay. So let's try not deflecting to the trans athletes conversation.
You've just brought up two more issues. I'm happy to talk about them.
We'll see if you deflect. Go on.
Well, go on. You want to ask me about them? Go on.
Okay, well, I'm saying let's focus on the issues that affect lots of people, not deflect into the culture war, issues that affect very few people in the grand scheme.
Well, let's be clear. The number of people directly affected by the Epstein scandal is probably 2,000.
The president of the United States covering up a pedophilia scandal affects everybody.
If that's what he's doing.
Well, common sense. You're a champion of common sense.
Well, I can tell you that I've spoken to Virginia Giuffre's lawyer multiple times, David Boyce. He's seen the files. He does not believe there's anything against Trump in those files.
Well, okay. What happened to common sense, Piers?
Well, I shall prefer to stick to facts.
Wow.
Hello. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
My name's Z.
Z.
Yeah.
Z.
Yes.
He doesn't know what that means.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
all.
I-
And you're sitting with each other.
Okay, so
That's not your pronoun. That's your name.
It's my name.
Okay.
My pronouns are she, her.
Oh, great.
So I think I tend to agree with you mostly on the cancel culture stuff.
Right.
In fact, like I was canceled back
Is
in
that
April
Z?
from this guy behind
Yep.
me.
Really?
Yeah, and so
Wow.
over some woke stuff. Okay.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Yeah.
What did he do to you?
Well, it was
I knew
about
this
micro.
about him.
It was about microaggression. So, but my point is that I think that the far left tend to do this to shrink the Democratic tent so that they don't have to take responsibility in winning elections.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do think that that's a very small portion of the far left.
Except
So
they're now winning power. This is what Mamdani.
They are, right, which is a good
my
thing.
God.
Well, first of all, I don't think Mamdani is considered the far left. Parker and Mamdani are not in the same category to me because he believes in electoral power, right? But my point is that you still are stumping for Republicans as if Republicans.
I don't stump for anybody.
Well, Piers, I've watched your show a lot.
Then you know I don't stump for anybody.
Okay, but you just made the defense in this argument with I think the guy before this last guy, where you said that you think Republicans are better on free speech than the woke
I've been in
left.
the last 2 years, yes.
Right. Well, and I totally disagree with you. Can we use Charlie Kirk as an example?
Yes.
Do you think that Charlie Kirk stood for free speech?
Absolutely.
You do?
Oh my God.
Really? How? Tell me about that.
Charlie Kirk was the absolute personification of
Oh my
defending free speech.
God.
Oh, really?
Let me explain why.
Okay.
Charlie Kirk had strong views about a lot of things, many of which you probably don't agree with, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But Charlie Kirk, week after week, around America, would go onto university campuses knowing that most people there didn't agree with him, may have a preconceived view about him, maybe thought he was a fascist and all that.
Most people there didn't agree with him. He was going to his official events. What are you talking about? They were all people that agreed with him. What? What does he think he was doing? Maybe in the very beginning.
Things they called him, and he would sit there in his tent, sometimes outside as he was when he was appallingly assassinated, and he would say, prove me wrong. And people would line up and they come and have a debate like this, and he would listen to them respectfully, he'd challenge them,
No.
he'd argue with them.
That's not what happened.
Sorry, that's exactly what Charlie Kirk did.
Okay, as somebody that
And for that, he got a bullet in the neck.
Okay, as somebody that runs the counter organization to Charlie Kirk's turning point, that is not the point of what Charlie Kirk was doing. Charlie Kirk did not decide to debate high-profile debaters, people like Destiny or people on the left that would actually give him a real debate. In fact, he even denied debating Dean Withers. I was literally with him when he did that. Okay, so it's not like he was going in to have a real debate. He would go to these
have real debate.
No, he would go to these college campuses to debate kids that were very much underprepared, so that he could clip them and then raise money for Turning Point to go out there and then register voters. Okay,
Then
and
don't
I
debate
think
him.
that's brilliant. Okay, that's why I'm trying to replicate it. But you cannot say that he was there for free speech because that's not really free speech, especially when Charlie Kirk went and tried to deny. He denied us from going into his events just because we were Democrats. He canceled our permits, even though we had permits that we paid.
You wouldn't argue,
That's not free
but
speech.
you wouldn't argue that he would regularly and I mean almost on a daily basis, debate with people who he didn't agree with.
College students, unprepared college students. Do you think that's real debate?
Let me throw back at you something. I'm interested in your response.
Make him answer.
He went to the Oxford Union in April, May this year.
Yeah, he did.
And he debated a guy.
The top tier college students. Oh, the top tier college. Oh, okay.
During the appearance, your response to this.
Yeah.
He went to the Oxford Union in April, May this year.
Yeah, he did.
And he debated a guy during the appearance there, who then became the president-elect of the Oxford Union, who, when Charlie Kirk was murdered, reacted by posting LOL, laughing out loud, and then he said, Charlie Kirk just got shot, let's effing go, exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Yeah,
he celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk, who was killed, let's be clear, because he had views that the person who killed him didn't agree with.
Yeah.
That person continued to want to be president-elect of a debating society. Do you agree that it's not a question of free speech or cancel culture, that he was incompatible with the position of being president of a debating society if you celebrate someone's murder with their speech?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
100%. We can agree on that.
I watched the way a lot of the woke left celebrated, posting.
The
And these were
woke
teachers,
left.
nurses, doctors, professors, posting videos of themselves, glorifying, celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. It was one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen.
Do you think that they should be fired for that?
Yeah, absolutely, they should be fired for that.
What? Wait, so you can't tell a joke about a guy dying? You can't. So if you celebrate somebody's murder, what? Wait, if that's not freedom of speech, I'm sorry. Is he? He's not on like the level
He's a
one.
boner.
He's not on the level one train of like it's freedom of speech as long as it doesn't offend me, right? That's like the libertarian wet dream to debate against. Like, oh, so you just don't like freedom of speech when somebody's being mean? Isn't that what freedom of speech is designed to protect? How can you have that position? That's the weakest, the most loserist position in the world. Sorry.
How are you? I'm Rob. Nice to meet you, Rob.
So I think we are conflating accountability with cancel culture. I am the mayor of my hometown, and if I came on here, Los Gatos, California,
Okay.
if I came on here and said a bunch of bigoted things, my voters would righteously vote me out. I would be out of a job.
Yes.
That's not cancel culture. That's just common sense and accountability.
Sure.
Can you tell me someone who has been permanently canceled?
No.
No. You're here today.
No,
That's- People like Bill Cosby don't get gigs because he's a pervert,
Yes.
right? That's-
No, I can tell you somebody. I can tell you two people where there was a global effort to cancel us, right? And one was me, and it came after the Oprah Winfrey Wine-a-thon, where Meghan and Harry trashed my royal family and trashed the monarchy in the most despicable, disingenuous manner.
People have told me that this is like the defining moment for all of Piers' life, that he hates the royal family so much that it is just like a defining thing. Jesus.
What'd they do to him?
I don't. He did some reporting that they didn't like, and so they fought with him. And apparently, he's just had the biggest. Yeah. I don't know. All right.
Imaginable. 57,000 wokies bombarded the Ofcom television regulator. They weren't Good Morning Britain, the show I was doing, viewers. These were just woke left progressives who wanted me fired for disbelieving the claims about racism and mental health that were cited in that interview, which have never been substantiated and which I to this day do not believe. And I was told, you've got to apologize for this because the mob have come. You've got to apologize or lose your job. A job I was doing very successfully. Done it for 5 years, trebled the ratings. We just eclipsed the BBC as a #1 morning show. I was at the peak of my powers. But because I was exercising my right not to believe somebody who actually it turned out was spewing a lot of bullshit, I had to leave my job because I wasn't going to apologize. Now, let me give you the subject to that, which is far worse. Sharon Osbourne, my longtime friend, was hosting a show here called The Talk on CBS. She'd done it for 10 years. She loved that job. She was brilliant at that job. She defended me when asked about it. She didn't defend what I'd said. She just said, I'm here for my friend Piers, right? The black co-panelist, Cheryl Underwood, played the race card on the next episode of The Talk. She turned to Sharon on air and said, out of nowhere, this wasn't planned, why did you support someone who said racist things? I'd never said anything racist about Meghan Markle. Sharon, obviously under attack, saying she'd been supporting a racist, and by definition must therefore be a racist, said, well,
Bro, this is the woman at the football game or the sports game or whatever, where she's like, or no, the guy who's like explaining anything to his girlfriend. You know what I'm talking about? The meme?
Oh, yeah.
The song. Okay.
she said that's racist. At which point Cheryl Underwood went on this ridiculous little. It's a point to it. Cheryl Underwood just said,
I don't think
it's not so much that he said racist things; it's kind of the way he said stuff. So Sharon said,
"Is this what you think people are talking about?
Wait, yes, I'm going to come to it. So Cheryl Underwood says this, and then she says, "I'm not accusing you of being racist, Sharon." Sharon says, "I think that ship has sailed." Here's what happened to Sharon. For a job she loved. She was bombarded with death threats, online mayhem, vilified, shamed. People saying, fire her. Wait a minute, let me finish.
I think that's bad.
Let me finish. Fire her. Death threats as well.
I think that's bad.
She eventually issued a groveling, sobbing apology. It still wasn't enough. She got fired from that job. For what? For absolutely nothing. For the next year, she had the worst year of her life.
I don't think that's what people talk about when you're talking about cancel culture.
Wait, you're talking about cancel culture, saying like no one has ever been a victim.
You're talking about
of the woke
comedians
mob.
who make a racist joke and somebody doesn't want to listen to them anymore.
What about Sharon Osbourne?
I don't know much about that. That sounds bad. No, that sounds bad. That sounds bad.
Oh, we did that. I don't know.
Why did I have to leave my job for disbelieving Meghan Markle?
No, we can't.
I don't know.
I cancel culture.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And then he gets. Oh my God! Come on, guys. They
didn't get to say anything.
They cocked him.
Amanda, nice to meet you.
So cancel culture. I'm trying to understand, is it that you believe it's something that's not necessary within society to hold people accountable? Is it
No, I do think accountability is very important.
Of
And
course.
individual companies are perfectly entitled to operate their own policies.
Mhm.
What I'm talking about is where the woke mob,
The
normally
woke mob.
through social media,
Mhm.
would pile pressure, and it's not exclusive to them, I've seen it happen with the right as well, would pile pressure on companies, on institutions to fire people, often for what, in my opinion, were things that might be offensive to people or whatever, but they're not at the bar where they should lose their livelihoods.
Well, I do understand. I mean, there's a line when it comes to cancel culture where there are things that are taken too far, where people do lose their jobs for certain things that some people may find offensive or some people might not find offensive.
I mean,
It's also-
free speech, you know, the whole point of free speech is it's not about you and I agreeing.
Exactly.
It's about our ability to listen to each other, and maybe you even saying hateful things to me.
Mhm.
If they
Wait,
don't cross the
what
bar of
about
criminality,
laughing about
you're
Charlie
allowed to
Kirk's
do
death,
that, and I
though?
should just suck it up. I don't have to like it, but I have to tolerate the fact in a free democratic society like the United States, with the First Amendment, you're entitled to do that.
And see, that's where I disagree. I don't feel that it has to reach a bar of criminality in order for it to be something that someone has to be held accountable for. Though we have free speech, there does have to be lines drawn because there are things that are inappropriate, regardless. You know, as you said when you were discussing books that are banned or certain things, the remarks you made about Meghan Markle, I don't agree that's something that you should be fired for. But I do see why there are people, and you need to look outside of your own perspective. There are people who felt that you needed to be canceled for such an instance.
Why?
Black women, especially around the world in the global West, they're oftentimes not listened to, and their problems, their pain, their mental health are oftentimes disregarded or undermined.
Race
and so
card.
that's also been a problem in
And credit
gynecology.
card. She
which is
doesn't
why
know
we see
Piers is a
maternal
black
race for
lesbian
women.
right now.
I believe Meghan Markle.
Really?
Why wouldn't I believe
Let me
Meghan
give an
Markle?
example of why you probably shouldn't. So she said in that interview that she and Harry were married secretly by the Archbishop of Canterbury 3 days before the public wedding. Had that been true, the Archbishop of Canterbury would have committed a crime and would have gone to prison.
Yes.
Did you ever see him go to prison?
No, I did not.
Did that make you think that maybe that never happened?
Honestly, no, it did not
Harry and
make me
Meghan-
think
Harry
that it's
and
something
Meghan,
that did not occur.
they
I want
said-
to answer your
They
question.
said in that interview that senior members of the royal family, who we
Yes.
now know
Oh,
through a
no.
leaked copy of the book where the names appeared,
Mhm.
were supposedly then Prince Charles, now King Charles,
Yes.
and Catherine, William's wife, made comments that they were concerned
Racist
about the
remarks.
potential skin colour of the unborn baby.
yes.
Do you believe on balance that that's likely to have happened?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Do you think
Coming
they're
from
both-
the British
do you think they're
institution,
racist?
that's something that has been,
Oh, no.
you know, for centuries trying to maintain the purity of the blood. You know, something that has been within
true?
British
They can't help being
aristocracy.
white, can they?
No, I'm not saying.
What are you suggesting?
Something being white, if you're purposely trying to preserve it, it is something that you are doing.
They're not purposely trying to preserve
The way
it. What
they
are you talking about?
interbred for years. I have studied English aristocracy for
You think,
many
just to be
years.
clear, you think the royal
And I
family
will
have been
say that
deliberately trying to stay white?
what I will say is that conservatism oftentimes does have to tie with the purity of whiteness and white culture. And so there are a large majority of conservatives who do see whiteness as the main basis of being a conservative, of something that's very important, that they need to preserve. And it's why a lot of times they exclude minorities and why they feel as though things such as wokeness are poor. They shouldn't be included because it's giving that pathway.
What should worry you more is that having set off this absolute inferno about the royal family being a bunch of callous racists, where's it?
I don't-
Well, Harry then wrote a book. Do you remember the book Spare?
Yes, I have.
420 odd pages of his life story. Do
Yes.
you know the two things that didn't appear in that book?
Inform
The
me.
racism allegations against his family about the skin colour of their unborn child, and the fact that the Buckingham Palace officials apparently told Meghan Markle she couldn't get help for her suicidal thoughts. Those two things never got repeated, never appeared in their documentary, never appeared in the
God.
book. They just vanished.
It did appear in the documentary. I did watch the
When
documentary.
Harry was asked about it
Mhm.
recently, he said, "Oh no, it was the media that put a racist tone on this. I never meant to say my family were racist." Oh yes, you did. We all watched what you guys said.
What is this?
It's okay.
That's great.
Thank
Vote
you.
shake.
Nice to
Okay.
meet you.
Wow.
Nice to meet you.
Pierce just getting his yap fest
Who
on.
voted him out?
Oh, yeah. Shane. Good to see you, Shane.
Nice to meet you. I want to take it back all the way to your original claim, and you said a lot of examples. I don't think you provided a single example of how cancel culture is a violation of free speech.
Okay, I'll give you one. 2 weeks before the election where Biden won, the New York Post got an exclusive story about Hunter
Oh my
Biden's laptop.
God.
Sure. It was okay.
Biden.
People can laugh. Actually, contained incredibly damaging information, which may have led to serious charges against a lot of the Biden family.
No.
Now we'll never know
No.
because they've all been pardoned. But this story.
What? Now we'll never know because they've all been pardoned? What do you mean? They did all the investigating for years on this, Congress did. They found nothing. Oh my
was
God.
suppressed by the left in the most disgraceful manner imaginable.
By the left?
at the time being all the tech giants.
Whoa,
who were all,
define suppressed.
They literally banned the New York Post account from their platforms.
Okay.
Until they took down the front page exclusive.
Free speech isn't protected on what platform you can speak on.
No.
These are private
you asked me
companies.
for an example of cancel culture.
I asked you for an example of violation of free speech, which is
that is a violation of free speech.
which is a promise that the government will not come in and arrest you for anything you say.
Hang on,
you
hang on.
are not
Shane,
entitled
Shane,
to
Shane,
viewers
Shane,
on your show
Shane.
just because people agree.
I agree. Shane, let me make my point. You asked me for an example of where free speech had been suppressed.
Violated.
A major, violated.
Not suppressed, violated.
Violated. A major national American newspaper of 100 plus years standing, the New York Post, had its account taken down on social media.
Okay, did anyone get arrested?
Because they were
Okay.
exposing a true story about the son of the man who would be president and became president in a way that was directly intended to benefit Joe Biden and hinder Donald Trump's chances of winning that election.
And I don't agree with that
is-
suppression.
So that's what I mean.
But
That's
how,
an example.
was anyone arrested?
What do you mean arrested?
Was any
What do you
free
mean
speech
arrested? What do you
violated
mean,
that
what
the
do you mean
government
arrested?
stepped in and arrested
Well, I
someone?
just told you the story of Graham, didn't I? It was arrested.
At the Heathrow Airport?
Yeah.
In the UK?
Yeah.
You don't have free speech in the UK.
Well, that's part of the problem. I agree.
That sounds like a UK problem, not a US problem.
The US has a big problem.
So what? It has a problem, but where has free speech been violated?
Just
Because
giving
of cancel.
you-
No, you gave me one at Heathrow Airport.
I'll give you the New York Post example.
Who has been arrested?
No one.
As a result of cancel culture, because someone has said something that was either
Ooh,
bigotry,
this guy's fucking
racist,
getting 'em.
sexist, whatever it is, and people are not entitled to have viewers based on their opinions.
I'm not saying they are.
If people disagree with you, they can say, "Oh, we're not going to watch you anymore." They're
Yes.
going to go out on social media and say, "Hey, everybody, let's stop watching this person because he came out as racist."
100%.
Okay, and that's not a violation of free speech.
No, Sharon Osbourne was fired, as I just told you.
Also, not a violation of free speech.
Of course it was.
49 states are at will employing states. Companies can fire you for any reason that
Yes.
is not related to discrimination.
I agree.
So-
I've
so
already
we're-
said, I think you're misunderstanding.
Got him. You're misunderstanding me.
I've already said that companies are
kinda
perfectly
got him.
entitled to do what they like. They're
Oh.
private businesses, right? So CBS was perfectly entitled to do it. But was it a violation of Sharon's free speech rights, what they did? Yes.
No, not a violation. It was suppression. It was. I don't agree with it.
What's the difference?
I think the people. She didn't get arrested for what she said.
Well, violation doesn't mean you get arrested.
Yes, being violated of your free speech, being able to not.
I can violate you without involving arresting you.
Is that what you see when you look at me? You wanna violate me? No, that is what we have in our Constitution that is protected. You can say and do whatever you
You
want.
have better
but your-
protections here than we do in the UK.
I agree. But your speech is protected. You can be as hateful, as angry, as misogynistic as you want to be, and people can hate you for that.
Yeah.
Consequences. You do not have a right to be on a platform and get to say whatever you want.
Sure.
You can.
But if I say,
you can, but
if I
people
say,
don't have to watch
if I
you.
say right now on camera, I think you should be shot dead, that is actually a criminal offence.
No,
And I would be arrested.
If you said you wanted to shoot me dead or you're encouraging people to shoot me dead, that is not protected free speech. That is a threat.
Correct. It's a crime.
You saying I should be shot dead is
So my
free
point
speech,
being,
and that makes you look like a terrible person.
Right, not all, yeah, I agree.
And you're not going to be arrested for that.
I've already made the point that hateful speech has to be tolerated in a free democratic
I
society.
agree.
Right, where it passes the bar of criminality, then obviously the law enforcement take over, and that's how it should be. The problem comes, and it's been more of a problem in my country than here. I agree, but I do think in terms of suppressing free speech, what was going on with things like the New York Post story being suppressed was absolutely disgraceful.
I agree. We're not disagreeing on that. Your claim was a
Let's end on a point of agreement. We end up agreeing.
Okay.